So let me ask you this: what did your parents say when you switched career?
Oh man, that's okay. So I'm first generation immigrant, and my parents are in their 70s at this point. So they're very old school. So understand that me changing careers is like, you're gonna do what? Wait, why?
I know exactly how you feel.
You just gonna take a break, right? Are you gonna go back? Because you're gonna, because you're either a doctor or lawyer, an engineer, or fuck up. So
there's no other thing. There's no
other thing.
Hey there. Welcome to the Gluten-Free Organic Thoughts podcast, where you are encouraged to express your natural thoughts and views through casual, meaningful conversations that hopefully can lead to learning and understanding new perspectives. To find out more info, visit www.gfOThoughts.com. Now, here are your hosts, Michael Wong and Robert Din. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another great episode of Gluten-Free Organic Thoughts. And today we're going to have a special guest here, and we're going to discuss an interesting topic where it connects to each other. Generation wealth and a little bit about wealth gap. And on top of that, we're going to touch base again with real estate. So today with us, we have Elizabeth Parris with us, and always with me, Robert Din.
What's up, everyone? Good to be back on recording again with someone. Elizabeth, what are you drinking today?
I have a Manhattan made in house.
Wow.
A little bit of makers.
Ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you made it with makers. What else?
I made it with makers, the bitters, and I always mess this up. I have to look at it. Tribino.
Nice. Is that one of your favorite drink to go? Just wondering.
That is my classic. That's the drink I always
take. Go to.
Easy, go to, one hitter quitter.
I used to love good old fashioned until 3 years ago, and
what happened? It's gotta be
I want to hear the story.
Someone ruined it for me. They just said, "I'm gonna end that right there."
They give you like a tall boy of it.
A tall boy. So Robert, what are you drinking?
I am drinking this rosé all day. This is right here. It's called 3 by Wade. It's Dwayne Wade's winery.
Oh, how's that?
Feedback? I mean, it's all right. It's okay.
It's okay.
I like it. I just like rosé though. I think it's but like we had a wine tasting with Portia and Liz was there. Nice. It was all like black owned wineries that we had a wine tasting on, and this was one of them. And this was everyone's like least favorite. But it was my least favorite. It was my favorite because I like rosé.
I mean, you like rosé. That's a different story.
Rosés are good, but they have a range, so it's not a terrible rosé. But I've had better, a little bit more flavor. Just a tinge bit more sweet. That's it. That's all.
Wait, hang on. Let me ask you this: what is Dwayne Wade's winery from? Where is it based out of?
It is Napa Valley.
Yeah.
Oh, Napa Valley. Okay, all right. So it's not an unknown area. Let's just be honest. So.
Nope. But he might want to check in on those grapes though. Sorry, Gabby. Sorry, Gabrielle Union. I love you.
I mean, they do have a house in LA. It's not that far from them. Okay. So
what? LA and San Francisco.
It's not that far.
It's like an hour and a half.
It's like an 8-hour drive.
I mean, first of all, they probably have a helicopter to probably just fly there. A private plane. Let's just be honest. All right, it's an hour plane.
You know what? Okay. I took the train once from LA to San Francisco. I don't remember how long it took, but it was a nice view.
I heard it's gorgeous.
Beautiful, especially the ride up.
The Amtrak, right? So I heard it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Did they ride along the water on the train?
A lot of it.
Yes, you go through like the coastal mountains there. You go through them. You get like a beach view. So I actually went from LA all the way to Seattle, actually. And then down to San Francisco, but that was back when you could go outside.
Okay, soon. All right, Liz. Well, welcome down to the show. Thanks for your time. Yeah. I know that you've been started doing some real estate stuff in the field the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. First of all, let's a little background about yourself for the listeners. I mean, obviously, you probably didn't start off real estate, or you may have. I mean, just want to know what got you into this. So, what kind of passion? A little bit more about yourself.
Gotcha. So I would say more so an interesting turn of life events. I actually was in medicine prior to going into the mortgage industry. I was in medical school. I was second year. med student.
That's a 180, by the way. There's a whole
and
different.
you know what? Surprisingly, there's a lot of parallels, which I know some folk will not want to hear between medicine and the mortgage or finance industry. But
Wow, really?
basically, the summary of it is there will be a podcast coming later about this, but the
There you
summary
go.
is that I could not, it was taking a bit of a toll on life in general. Medical school, it's not easy. And first person in my family to go. So, from a very just a generational standpoint, there's not a lot of passing on of that knowledge. It becomes a lot to manage
Mhm.
finances, mental health, balance.
Yep.
And I have plenty of friends who are in it now who are ready to retire. Right. So, um,
And they're not that much older than us, probably.
no, not at all. So that's,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things there. So,
But let's before that, I'm ready to retire. All right, and I'm not in medicine, so you know, like,
Listen,
but you might look like Benjamin Button if you were, though, just so we're clear. So be happy you still have your good, youthful skin going here.
that's true.
But so the transition really, I end up leaving medical school through an interesting turn of events, because when you're not in school, you don't have student loans,
Mhm.
you don't
Yeah.
have any income, actually.
That's true.
Mhm.
Funny
Yeah.
story. You find yourself on food stamps and having to go to job training where I was living at the time, which was in Camden, New Jersey. And through that, my job training teacher,
Yep. Mhm.
his wife worked at a mortgage company, and they were doing training for
Yep.
folk who had never been in the industry. He sent over my resume, got an interview. That was like 5, 6 years ago. The rest is history. Been doing
Wow.
mortgage.
Wait, so hang on. Just that training alone. So it got you hooked like that? Like what kind of training is about? What did you go what did you learn out of that?
So they basically educate you about the mortgage industry,
Okay.
from all of the regulations, the different types of laws, everything in regards to lending, from fraud to money laundering to anti-redlining,
Yep.
discriminatory acts, just all of the things that got put into place. History. We talked about the different crashes.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, especially the bubble pop of 2008, which is like the
Yeah.
huge thing. So
Yeah, of
that
course.
training was pretty. That's a lot of reading, not
Yeah.
nearly as much reading as medical school. So let's just say I took a lot of my skill sets from being to go to medical school and
Mhm.
retaining information, and then I'd already
Well,
worked.
attention to details too, probably, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Oh yes, oh yes,
Yes.
oh yes.
Yeah.
And that kind of just helped me kind of absorb the information. And I already had a thing for people.
Yeah.
Working in medicine is always about people. I worked in community-based medicine for a while before I went to medical school.
Yeah.
So kind of
So
just
let me ask
met.
you, did you had an interest in that in the first place?
So no, I didn't have an interest in mortgages.
Okay.
I had no real solid education in it, aside from my parents have a mortgage.
Yeah.
I want to buy a house one day.
That's about it.
Yeah.
That's about it. So I really did take a, from a personal standpoint, took a complete 180 in regards to
Got it.
career path. But it's been one hell of a ride.
You said there's similarities between
Yeah.
medicine and real estate or like mortgage
Hmm.
industry. Like what similarities are there that you're
Yeah, if you name
you're
three
saying?
of them, just make top just like 3 or 5 of them.
Oh, pecking order, lack of diversity, and being overworked.
Being overworked.
Being
in the mortgage
overworked.
industry. Wait, hang on. I want to hear this part first. Being overworked in the mortgage industry.
So when you are, it's hunting, as you're here from what they
Yeah.
call the old boys club, right? What you eat, you kill.
Okay.
So from a sales standpoint, if I don't close deals, I don't eat.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that means I'm constantly networking, leveraging who I know in my network, finding new
Yep.
ways to advertise and put myself out there. So you're really like a
So
business
you're on the
owner.
sales side in a sense. That's
Yeah,
where
I'm
you
on
are.
the sales side. Yep, I'm 100% sales. So
Okay.
that constant pushing and going, which I do enjoy, it's a hustle that's
Yeah.
invigorating.
Mhm.
But that can be a 10 to 12 hour day sometimes, depending
Easily.
on where you work and what market you're in
Yeah.
regards to real estate.
So are you more towards commercial or residential?
So I'm residential.
Residential. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And do you have a demographic you tend to target? I was wondering.
To be very honest, first time home buyers, and a lot of my clients, 85% of my clients are minorities, brown, black, Indian.
Gotcha.
Hispanic.
So, and let me ask you this: do you technically work for yourself? You work for a company? How does that work? Just want like a little background for folks who doesn't know how those work.
Gotcha. So I work for a company. You're always going to work for a mortgage broker, a correspondent lender, or a bank. I work for a company who's a correspondent lender. I'll leave them out of this for right now. Just go to my Instagram.
That's fine.
And I'm a loan consultant under that company. But all my business that sources, as I source it. So they don't necessarily give me business.
So they don't. So did they provide some leads, at least a head start?
No.
So they provide like funding, like that's what they're providing.
Yep, they fund. They fund all the business I bring in. They fund it and they service the loan. But in regards to leads, so you can ask them or sign up for leads with them, but you have to understand when someone's handing you a bunch of leads, they're usually not quality.
Probably bad leads.
Yeah, they're not always quality. You're not always going to get the top pick of the litter. So for me, I'm going to source my own business, which means I'm networking with realtors and other first-time home buyers. Just out there marketing.
Okay. So I mean, obviously, that's just building leads. It takes time. That makes sense. The amount of hours you could have put in, and then not only that, you got to make sure you can close those leads, and then hopefully, and then you build that relationship. Hopefully, you get enough referrals from that too as well. Probably.
Yes, there it is. It's a revolving door of business. So it's important. I call it you're constantly on. You're constantly building. So you're always your brand is who you are and what you do in your character and relationships you build. So relationships are super important, which are important in medicine. So you relationship build with your patients, our relationship build with my clients. You can absolutely raise your blood pressure in two magnificent ways, either meal or making a poor financial decision. So it all works.
Sounds fun experience, by the way.
I'm vegan, so I tend to eat good meals, but I have made some poor financial decisions.
Listen, we're all guilty of that. We're all guilty of that. I feel like, I mean, this is maybe another conversation of financial literacy, because I feel like that's a big thing. But I feel like they don't teach you that at school. I think each of us have to learn that on our own.
For sure. Yeah. Definitely have to learn that on your own. Also, I had my parents were always like, we're like very stringent on like our budget and stuff. So a lot of like the budgeting side comes from them, but then like managing your money after that, after your budget, like who knows? Like none of us knew that.
I have a hard time applying my budget to my spending. Let's just say
like you have the app, right? You have the app.
I have the app. I have everything, but applying it for the story.
Listen. Robert made such a great point about parents, and the thing is, like, because I work with a lot of first-time home buyers and a lot of my clients are minorities, sometimes there's a disconnect in what your parents did and what your parents explained and what they communicate, and then putting it into practice. So a lot of my clients, I spend a lot of time like counseling from the mortgage side. Like, hey, here, let me look at your credit report. Let me look at your debts. Here's some things that aren't making sense. Where's your bank statement? Like, why are you ordering so much out and you want to buy a house in 3 months? Like it's a hard conversation, but it
really is. It's a reality check sometimes, to be honest. Like my parents hate credit cards, and let me tell you, I have no clue how they bought the first house. I don't want to know, but they hate credit cards with a passion.
So I think our parents are like, oh, we're gonna save up like a ridiculous amount of money, and then we have all this cash, and we just put it as a huge down payment, and then we can get it. We can get it, no problem.
And but that's how the practice was back in their generation, right? Yeah, and that's how they were taught. So
And the crazy part is there's nothing wrong with saving up a lot of money and say, I'm going to put down a large deposit as long as it doesn't leave you cash poor later. Because the challenge with that is in our day and age for us, our generation is we want to have enough money. We were taught that save a lot of cash, just pay cash or pay down. But now you have to learn how to leverage your money in other ways while still getting the best deal on your financing so that you're not cash poor and you're still able to buy assets.
Correct. And I think that conversation we could talk about a little bit more about when we talk about generational wealth.
Absolutely.
But so going back to your background, right? Like, I don't want to get too far off topic. So it sounds like you've been doing this for a little bit now. So what have you learned so far? I'm just wondering, like, what is if you could name two or three things where you didn't expect to learn, but you learned it because of mortgage consulting?
That people are poorly educated about finances. And I know that's like a no-brainer, but that was the number one thing that I picked up on instantly. The lack of knowledge at all age groups, not just our age group, not just our parents, some of our grandparents, people just don't know. they don't know, and there's so much misinformation. They
There's a
don't know
lot of
who to,
misinformation out there for sure.
yeah, they don't know who to go to. There's too much misinformation, and it leads to people making poor decisions and sometimes getting into what I call predatory lending situations on all levels. I feel that way about student loans.
Can you define that a little bit more? Sorry, can you define that with predatory?
So predatory lending is when you are given, you are offered lending terms that are actually not a benefit to you, either extremely high interest rate or fees being charged on a loan, whereas someone else may have gotten something better where it's a better financial situation, meaning it's not costing as much, the rate isn't as high, you're not ending up with lump sum payments out of the blue. So predatory lending typically
Sounds like
are
it happened with 08 crash.
and
Yeah.
it's
Still
still
happening.
Still
Yeah.
happening now.
definitely happened in the '08 crash, but it's still happening now.
Yeah, okay.
Surprisingly, with the CFPB and all that involved, there's a lot. So when I say that's the huge number one thing that I learned about being in the lending industry, just not enough education at all.
Yeah, and if they had that education, they wouldn't be in these
I mean,
situations.
I think
They
they'd be more
wouldn't. They
aware
wouldn't
of
be.
it.
Yeah,
They'd be more aware for sure, though.
they'd be more aware of like this practice. Like we can get a better deal versus
Yeah.
before they didn't know, so they're just like, oh yeah, we'll just take it because that's what they offer.
Yep, exactly. The second thing I learned, which I'm always going to tie back into my medical background, is that truly medicine is a corporate entity, finances and mortgages are a corporate entity. And the reason why they get along so parallel, so well, is because they're both corporate entities. No matter how you want to look at it,
That's true.
someone's going to
I
slap
can see
my
that.
wrist on it. But that's the one thing that my brain was like, oh man, this is the same thing. Only one's dealing with your healthcare and one's dealing with your financial care. So that was two. And I guess third was I actually enjoy it a lot.
Mm.
I definitely bitch a lot, but I say it right now.
I feel like we all do. We do that on our jobs, right?
Mhm.
Whether we hate it or love it, it just not. I mean, it's not gonna always be happy.
There's always gonna be parts of your job that you're not gonna like. Like
Yeah.
every job, there's no job
Yeah.
that like everyone loves every part of it.
As long as your positive outweighs your negative, I think that's what it is. If you net out, it'd be good.
And those are my clients. It's once I'm able to get the client into a home, and I know what that means for them, I know what that means for their family, their legacy. Then I'm like, all is well with the world. I don't hate the back. Okay, we're fine. Now we're good. And then Monday comes and it's like, what foolishness is this today?
So let me ask you this: what did your parents say when you switched career?
Oh man, that's okay. So I'm first generation immigrant.
Yep.
And my parents are in their 70s at this point. So they're very old school. So understand that me changing careers is like, you're gonna do what? Wait, why?
I know exactly how you feel.
You're just gonna take a break, right? Are you gonna go back? Because you're gonna, because you're either a doctor or lawyer, an engineer, or fuck up. So
there's no other thing.
There's no other thing, because literally became and it was a thing for me as well, to be very honest. It's, my parents were expecting one thing, I was expecting one thing, it's like that. It's okay, this is a guarantee. You're gonna be a doctor, you're gonna have the money, you're gonna be fine, financially okay, we don't have to worry. Great, our retirement plan is solidified. Retirement plan is not solidified. It's a couple changes, guys. And it was a rough, at least for me, mentally and emotionally, it was a rough transition, because again, we're talking 8 years of training to get,
it's crazy. It's a journey for sure.
So they had a hard time adjusting to that, and just with the expectations of like, well, what's next? What's your next plan? And then the anxieties about, oh my God, you're gonna fail. What do we tell the family?
So how long did it take them to get used to it? Just wondering.
I would say probably 2 to 3 years, because it took me a moment to just say I'm not going back to medical school. Because I was like, maybe I'll go back. But once I was like, I'm not going back.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, oh, so this is probably what, year 2,
gotcha,
2.5 at this point. And I was like, I'm not going back, and they were just kind of like,
okay, like there's not much they can do.
Just don't move back home, and
oh, I did not. That was non-negotiable, because that's a lot of stress, as you know from your folks when they come here and they're just like, we have this plan and dream for you, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was asking that question is because I encountered a similar situation where, so I was studying engineering, right? And then I tell them, oh, I don't want to become an engineer anymore. And my parents just kind of freaked out in a sense, like their own way though. They're like, they didn't go out of the way, like, oh, start yelling at me or anything like that. Oh,
Yeah.
you can tell that they were passively poking, you know, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You know, like that kind of passively poking. And I'm about to do this again soon to change career, and I just don't know how they're gonna react because they're older. So so I
Just
can't
get
wait.
settled first.
I mean,
Just
they've already gone through one career change, right? So they gotta be like okay with it, or like be like, all right, maybe Mike knows what he's doing.
listen.
I don't know.
Just slide them a large sum of cash and just go about your day. Don't even say anything. Just
That's what I was thinking. The same thing. I was thinking the same exact thing. Just try to check quickly, sleep. Okay, at least he has money to survive.
yeah. Just slide him the check. Say nothing else at this point, and then just let everything happen. Like that's one thing I have learned about some decisions. Because I also started like a small brand business as well that I'm working on flipping around. I just don't talk about too much anymore. Like I just make moves, put things in place, and then once I figured out all the issues, now I don't have to worry about their anxiety. Listen, they don't pay for anything. They don't have cable. They got Netflix, Disney Plus. They're fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
yeah. I did the same. My parents did the same thing when I switched from pharmacy over to finance, and they weren't as subtle as yours were, Mike. They were pretty much saying I was gonna play out and be a broke teller at a bank or something. That's what they're pretty sure that was my career path for going to finance. So, but you know, like after a while, like now that like I'm living fine, they never say anything anymore. So I think after a while they have to trust.
Right.
Well,
Right.
they saw where you live. That's why.
They saw how I live. Let's not tell the people.
Just
All right, I live very poor life. Okay, little humble life over here. Okay. No, but no, they so like now I think that they understand that we've gone through like what we've gone through, and like we kind of like we know what we're doing, and like not having to go back to them and like ask them for help. I think that they understand that we're doing okay. It's not.
Well, also, I feel like they kind of want for us to ask them for help because I feel like especially when they're retired, they got nothing else to do. They're like, "Hey, do you need help? Anything? Do you need help?"
They're bored, so they want.
They're bored.
They
Not
need...
only that, okay, I've gone back to my parents a few times right since COVID happened. They're like, "Hey, do you need cash? Do you need anything?" And I'm like, "No, I don't need cash. I don't need anything. I'm okay." You know, like so, like it's literally like they're trying to obviously for them, especially when they're retired, they're trying to still connect with you as much as they can, but they're probably slightly bored, and they're probably not in their in that page where they're getting ready to turn to the next chapter. So for at least in my experience right now, like they're still kind of postally packing, hey, what are you doing right now? What are you gonna keep working for a job for the next 10 years? You know, it's still slightly poking here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I'm literally getting the all right, so our grandkids coming poke.
I get that.
I get that all the time too. That's for sure.
You know, you have grandkid money because is there grandkid money? Are you babysitting? Are we all moving into one abode? Or do you have a husband lined? I just need a couple things I need answered.
There's a couple steps there that we're missing.
Couple steps here because it's like childcare and daycare and the pregnancy part. Just help me understand what role you want to play fully before I take that. Yeah, that's that boredom.
We were talking before, like I can barely keep this plant alive, and I definitely don't think that I can keep a baby alive. I mean, my mom's listening, so that's
Hi, Robert's
surprise.
mom.
Like
Surprise.
that's my ideas right now. But yeah, it's definitely not ready.
I mean, you got the little Iron Man plush toy. I think you're off to a great start here.
There we go.
I got toys.
You got the Iron Man plush
I got
toy
plenty of toys. All right. If
you know,
if that's all you need for a kid is toys, I have plenty of toys.
All right. So we're going a little bit off tangent, but I just want to bring back to the your background a little bit, Liz. Right. So obviously, not that you have learned so much from the mortgage and real estate industry. Have you, I guess, taken a step back on how you're going to build your wealth, generational wealth in a sense, right? Because I feel like everybody here has different plans, especially when it comes to different generation. Like my parents thought about, like you said, mentioned before, saving a lot of money. I'm going to buy this with all this cash and they didn't care about investing. Then and then once they build another pile of cash, they're gonna buy another property. Like that's what the mindset was. So like, what have you learned from that? And what are you taking a step back? What have you done for yourself? Just wondering, or at least on the way to do it for yourself.
Gotcha. So I would say on the way to do, because with student loan debt comes with a lot of hindrances. So it's been mostly just focusing on building my brand and building my business, which has been great. And I'm very grateful for where I am at this point, especially some of the business partners I've made doing in the mortgage industry. But for me, it's been a focus on, I've started investing a lot more aggressively, particularly since the pandemic hit. Like I had a couple things here and there, but I didn't realize how important it was to diversify my income in that way until I really had the time to sit and look, oh no, you need to invest. So start buying stocks, not just index funds, but now you need to diversify that portfolio. And all this extra time, I'm first of all, the number one way for me that really lit the fire under my butt, I had a client who owns about 30 Dunkin' Donuts here in PA.
Jesus.
30? And I did and it's just 30 Dunkin' Donuts, but they also own hotels. They also own
they have this group LLC probably that owns a bunch of stuff.
They have a complete investment group, and it was the first time. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like susus or like money pots that you put into culturally and then you get money out. It's the first time I ever saw one legally laid out in a bank account. Wow. So you can actually claim it appropriately for doing mortgages. I was doing a construction loan for this client, and gang load of businesses, my brain exploded in regards to the tax returns. But when I saw how well diversified the portfolio was, the way
balance was,
when I tell you, I was like, oh, this is probably 2 years ago. I was like, you gotta get it together now. Now that you're shifting transition, you gotta get together. I watched how they diversified money, how they legally put all their money in a bank account where everyone puts in investments and can draw out of it, so I can use this as assets for them to purchase this lot and build on it.
Yeah.
And then I also looked at the fact that they own those businesses and hired all of their folk, because they're Indian. I'm not going to be bashful about that. They're Indian clients. They own 30 Dunkin' Donuts. Every single person.
I'm not surprised, by the way.
Right. Not surprised. But every single person at Dunkin' Donuts is Indian.
Yeah.
And I was writing mortgages, not just for them, but for also their clientele. Because like, oh, we need to get them pre-approved. Here's all their information.
Yep.
So, and again, all legal above the board, just in case anyone's wondering, like we did it at the banking guidelines. That, you want to see light bulbs and fireworks go off? That was me sitting there combing through 2 years of tax.
How they balance their cash flow too, probably, to be honest with you. In order for them to do that, they had to balance well their cash flow for sure.
When I tell you there was such a nice balance, because I had that investment account, which is like millions of dollars sitting in it, maybe 11 of them.
Yeah.
So,
but it's also to the same time, they don't move that money though. Also, it's an issue for them as well.
Nope, they don't. They don't move it as much. Money comes in and out according to what they're doing. So it's all sitting there seasoned appropriately for them.
Oh, okay. To get ready to move to do something. That's what it is.
To do something. Yes. So it's all there according to it's been sitting for months.
It has a reason.
Yes, it has that, and the reason is for all of them to leverage their next business moves.
Got it.
Again, my mind was blown. So I was like, I gotta start investing. This year I will be making the leap in purchasing real estate myself.
Nice. Commercial or residential?
It's going to be residential. It's going to be the first purchase for me, owner occupied, but also I can invest.
Wait, let me ask you this though: is it for yourself or actually for investment? You said
it's for me, and I will eventually transition it fully into investment. So the thing is, I get to live in it partially and rent out other portions of it, and then I get to move on to the next.
Maybe wait until Biden passes the $17,000 homestead credit.
Don't worry. There's a timeline here. Nothing's happening before June. I can tell you that right now.
There we go. A lot of people are not. I mean, I guess it's hard to keep up with that kind of stuff because it changes so fast sometimes.
Yes, constantly. I have probably a bunch of content that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks, paying attention to some of those changes that are happening because it just needs to be quick. Given information, but to answer the question for me, I've been investing in stocks and I'm looking at purchasing real estate during my first purchase this year personally. And then the next move is because I've been doing research on other things to start getting into more investment properties in different areas.
No Dunkin' Donuts for you?
Dunkin' Donuts?
No. You know what? No, I don't have. I got to get a couple like-minded people together on the complete commercial.
Krispy Kreme?
You know what? Maybe a Wingstop, you guys. I don't know.
Oh, I don't. I actually heard this crazy story. Who invested in 30 to 40 Wingstop? I'm trying to remember what's his name. Oh my God.
Rick Ross.
Yes, Rick Ross. There we go. He was on this podcast, and I heard this whole crazy story about it. I was like, man, this guy, like the way he envisioned it, it's not the way I thought about why he decided to, to invest in Wingstop. It was just the whole idea for him, just having like, I just love wings.
Oh, that was the idea. I love wings. I'm gonna open Wingstops. Yeah, makes sense.
I love Beyonce, but unfortunately, she's not a stock I can invest in. But please believe, if she was an IPO, I would invest in Beyonce and not buy clothes from her. But
he just loves wings. That's what it was.
That's it. That's the one thing I learned in my journey, at least, and I know it's a rule for some folk. Anything that I enjoy, I have stock in now.
Really? So, that's a good way to put that, because you're gonna follow that more because you have so much interest investing in it. That makes sense.
So Starbucks, I got stock. Apple, I have stock, especially when that split happened. Unfortunately, Google is not looking available right now. Tesla, I don't own one, but I will someday. So I bought, anything that I like, I own. I'm vegan, so I have stock in Beyond Meat. Like,
yeah, no, it makes sense. Like, you should definitely be investing in things that you know, or like you understand. Like, you shouldn't be investing in things that you have no idea on, right? So like things that you use every day, it's a very it's a good investment tip to have.
But
yeah, I mean, one of the things is that I'm learning along the way is that how to diversify your portfolio in a sense, and how to make money kind of work for you in a sense. And I feel like this is our generation that we're learning on our own, because I can't ask that from my parents. Like, like it's a hard information. And listen, I mean, obviously I made a lot of mistakes along the way, crypto. But
you're still up on crypto, Mike. Don't talk like you've lost a ton of money on crypto.
I don't know, but
no Dogecoin. Sorry.
No, Dogecoin. but you know what I'm saying? Like, you learn a lot as you go along, right? And part of it is that it does help, when your group of friends is similar situation, because you kind of talk about it more.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot more what they learned, what they screwed up at too as well.
Yeah. And that's been the best part of this, I think. Particularly, like, I'm really seeing it with the pandemic. A lot of my friends now, everyone's like really into investing, the stock market, diversifying money, as well as saving. But now we're all constantly talking about it, like, well, how do we do this? How do we acquire real estate? What's the next move once we acquire real estate? And I get to kind of assist in that direction of things, but also, like, make your first buy your best buy. I don't have kids. I'm not married. So my first purchase is most likely going to be a multifamily. I'm not buying a single family. Who's going to live in it? My parents can still operate by themselves, and they live in a home, thankfully, in their home. Sorry, not a senior citizen. So I don't have to make that decision on a single family property. That's going to be, I don't have to own or occupy that. My first purchase needs to be income producing, which is another thing that we all keep talking about, how to make our next move really our best move financially. So that's what the
show. And especially, oh, nice. Wait, hang on. What does your shirt say? Generational wealth and chill.
Generational wealth and chill.
Wait, did you make that shirt or you bought that shirt?
I did. It's for my business.
Oh,
nice.
Wow.
Okay. So you want to talk about a little bit about your business or coming
out? No, but
not yet. All right.
We'll get there.
We'll have you back on when you're ready.
There we go.
Ready to launch.
All right. So, branching off to generational wealth, I guess, for those who don't know what generational wealth, you want to give a definition? We could do it ourselves. It's wondering, like, let's just for folks.
I'm not like a Webster dictionary, but when I think of generational wealth, money that can be passed on, money assets that can be passed on to your children and their children in order to help them have wealth that they can leverage to continuously make money that works for them.
Yep. Adding on to that, I agree. It's one generation to another, right? That's what it is. And with a kind of formal tradition where so one of the things that I feel like I started thinking about more and more as I get older is like, okay, you know what? Or what am I going to leave behind to a certain degree? Because even, obviously me and my parents had this conversation because they're talking about as they're getting older, you're going to have that kind of conversation, right?
Mhm.
And they were like, oh yeah, hey, you're gonna be my beneficiary for this house. I'm like, oh, that's when it hit like kind of like, the light bulb in a sense, right? And it is a hard talk, to be honest, especially when you're having that kind of conversation with your parents.
Oh yeah.
And then they're kind of disclosing some stuff. And one of the things that I realized is like, damn, they work all this much hours just for this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's mind blowing that you would think that you would think that you don't realize how much effort until you realize to see the results that they're gone. Like, because they hide stuff very well. They really do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
somehow they really do. And you would think that they were transparent from the beginning. Nope.
Keep everything close to their chest.
They keep it close to the chest. And,
Man. Whew.
and when it comes out, like, and so I feel like once, so we got to that hurdle now, and then now that made me start thinking, okay, you know what? I need to start thinking moves where that is not as much as the risk that I used to take, but also at the same time, I don't want to minimize myself from an opportunity that
Right.
whether it's worth to take the risk.
Right.
And I feel like that's where I'm going to cross over. Okay, you know what should I do next? And I'm kind of thinking about more of my risk side more than I used to. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I'm still like,
yeah.
I'll 10 the risk. I don't care. Like I'm on a scale from 1 to 10. I'm still on like a 9, right? But there's a.
So I
But
used to be like that last 2 years, and now I'm at 7 now.
I know, but I now I'm like more segregated in my risk, right? So then I'll have like 80% at like a 6, and then the other percentage 20% will be at a 10, and then even it out that way, right? Like, and that's really how I think about it, because like before it's like, oh, go big or go home. Like I don't have any money. I don't have any money. If I lose this, I'm still here, right? Like whatever.
I'm sitting here like, ooh, so I'm still my parents' retirement plan. Okay.
Let me ask you this, Liz. So I mean, obviously, you probably do a lot of risk assessment, right?
Mhm.
So how about what do you like right now? Like, how do you do judge or I guess calculate your own personal risk assessment?
I look at how long it's going to take me to to flip the investment
Yeah.
at this point. So, certain risk I'm not going to take. I'm just not. Like, if you were told me to like, all right, jump new companies, I'm like, ooh, pause. We're not doing that right now. You got to show me something that makes it worth it. But
Yeah.
I'm more about calculated risk. So I'm very much going to say if I take this
So
investment.
hey, Liz, put $10,000 in GameStop right now.
No, listen, if you told me that, like I'm so pissed because I looked at that stock when I was like, oh, it's still $50. I should buy some shares. And I did not, and I kick myself to this day that I did not buy the additional shares that I wanted to buy.
But would you have sold though when you would
Oh
remove?
hell yes. I don't.
You don't hold. You don't hold. Okay.
You don't hold.
No, I do hold, but there's certain things I don't hold.
Not
Like
hold on. GameStop. GameStop is not one that you hold.
No,
Like,
that wasn't a stock. That wasn't a stock that I was like, oh, yeah, you should hold on to this. Because when I look at what's happening with gaming, and I was like, nah, that's not gonna work. But neither here nor there. But what I would say, if you were to say drop $10,000 on something, I'm like, pause. Let me actually do some research, see what's happening, what's next, what's not. Because for me personally, I can't. There's certain risk I can't take at this age. I'll take a specific risk, and their risk I just won't take at all. It's like, well, no, I'll go skydiving, but I won't.
yeah, it's more like yeah, what's like for me. It was like as long as I segregate this out and I have my money to go YOLO on, and then the other side is
Yep.
like I know it's gonna make money. It's like doing its own
Yeah.
thing. I'm not
Yep.
gonna touch that. Like that stuff is good. And then I have my fun money that I'm just gonna go and
So
try to be a billionaire on that money.
So you budgeted that little pocket on the side as well.
Yeah, I have like separate
Yeah.
accounts for YOLO.
Agreed. I would definitely say I think my YOLO is more so budgeted for plants, but neither here nor there. But I would say I always keep for me, I always look at discretionary income, like stuff that's left over. Like I've paid up my bills, I put money into my savings. I actually put the money I put to the side for investing. Oh, I see a stock that I'm researching. I think it's going to be a hot one. That's literally like, okay, toss that in. But I also started this trend of if I buy a luxury item for myself, and this could be like a pair of shoes, like from Nike or Adidas, I'm going to take the exact same amount of money and put it in stocks.
That's
That's
good.
that's why I force myself at this point. It's a force that it's like I don't. So now I think twice about, do you really want to buy this jumpsuit by Beyonce?
Yeah.
Now you're gonna have to put
That's interesting. Yeah, because then you'll buy like
I see what you're saying.
$1,000 phone, and then you're like, all right, now I gotta put $1,000 over here. So it's actually a
Yeah,
$2,000
that's
purchase.
true.
Yes,
Right?
that was my
expensive.
last upgrade, and I put $1,000 towards stocks because I leased a new phone.
Wow, that's a good idea. I think
That's a good way to put that.
I should
Yeah,
totally
so
do that. I can reach out right now and get like $600 in headphones. Like that's like that's how
Right.
my life is, right?
So-
like, I mean, so yeah, it's good. It's good to like have. I mean, yeah,
Budgeting,
maybe if I
Robert,
budgeted like
budgeting.
that, if I said it's like double this up because it's gonna be going to stocks and stuff too, then
Yep.
maybe I won't have as many random electronics everywhere.
Listen, you ever want to find a way to stop yourself from buying things because you just wanted to have an impulse buy? Is when you're like, oh, I gotta put that in the stock market. Okay.
Yeah,
No, but
I got
it's-
double the price. That's it's more double the price than anything, right? Like, I'll buy. It's like, oh, this is like $60. Okay, like I could go $60.
120.
But then
Nope,
once it's
120.
120, I'm like, maybe I gotta think about this.
No, it's true though, because I feel the same. I mean, when I was looking for a laptop, right? It took me a while to make a decision on laptop. I was like,
Yeah,
you know
we're all
what?
very annoyed with you. For that, like...
but I was like, you know what? I don't change the laptop very often. You know, maybe 3 to 4 years, and then I make sure my laptop lasts that long. But I also don't want to overspend my laptop because I don't use certain features on it. And so I was like, you know what? Do I spend $1,500 to $1,500 right away to buy a laptop, or I can finance it for 0 interest rate, and then just have $1,000 to do something else with it? And so for me, it was a no-brainer. So that was my option. I got to find something that had $1,000 0 interest rate for 12 months. I could pay that back myself, whatever it is. And
Mike, you know that PayPal lets you buy anything over $100, you can finance for 6 months.
It's a trick.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
But,
Why is it a trick? I have not gotten charged at all on interest.
and we get $30 back every single credit.
For Amex, yeah.
You know what? I want to argue there if you get back a credit back or some points, but I stay away from anything. PayPal's like, hey, you can finance. No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna drop cash.
I do anything over $100. I do it, but as soon as I do it, I put in my payment plan, so automatically take out of my checking account. So yeah, so like it's all like pre-planned out that this money's gonna come out, but but it's 6 months free.
I do the same exact way you put it. So Best Buy had this amazing 18 months 0 interest rate thing.
Yep.
And that's why I did with my laptops. Like, you know what? The laptop's in Best Buy. Not only that, I got 3% cash back plus 10% off because it's my birthday. And plus what else? What it was like? Oh yeah, it was like a open box type of situation, but it was certified. But then again, by the time I bought it with 3-year warranty, it ended up costing me like $1,100.
Yeah, so I did the same thing because I have a Best Buy card, but that thing's already been paid off with the 0%. You know what I mean? And I got the cash back. I used that to buy my mom's laptop.
Yeah,
it all worked out, but that's the only time you gotta toss in.
You just have to be vigilant on it and not go past that date, because once you go past that date, all of the interest comes at once.
Oh yeah, and that's the reason why I made that auto billing exact amount.
I calculated out, like as soon as the purchase is made, I go and calculate it out, and then this is what I pay every month. And then
it's the lender in me that says don't do it, you guys. That's just me. Like, don't do it. Just take care of it up front. And people, things like the one thing I've learned about the pandemic, things happen. And things happen. No one expected the pandemic to happen. Nobody expected to find themselves working from home. A lot of folk found their finances disrupted who were in the midst of that 0% interest deal. Right?
Yeah.
And those 3 months went quickly as we're waiting for the world to open back up. And they're not able to make those payments, and now you just completely derailed your ability to actually buy. That's why I'm like that. So don't, if it works for you,
they got conned too on like 6 months. It went back quickly. It's been almost a year now. Think about it, right?
Yeah.
And so I 100% agree with you. Like it's so the company called Afterpay.
Afterpay, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they purposely break down into finance. It's a smart business model, by the way.
It is.
but that's how they get a lot of people to buy stuff during the pandemic time, because they broke it down into tiny little payments like that. And
I think it's like every other week or something like that. It's genius.
It's crazy. It's such a crazy thing, though.
I have a friend of mine who just moved over there and is working for Afterpay.
Oh, I think they IPO already, didn't they, or something?
They've been public for a while. They're in Australia.
They're Australia. No, but I'm talking about the States. They didn't have the IPO in the States, I thought.
I don't think so. They're public in Australia.
Anyway, but it's an interesting business model regardless though. I find it fascinating though. So one of the things that, going back to investment and generational wealth, right? I think in terms of like investing in I guess businesses or real estate, so like I know you probably deal with a lot of investors, probably.
Yes,
And
fair
so
share.
so a lot, what if you can name three common things you've seen a lot throughout the different investors you encounter with? And I'm just wondering, what are the three things that you've seen them do time after time that I guess for best practices they've done? Like,
They don't over leverage themselves. Like the best investors don't over leverage, meaning they have properties that hold value
yep,
so that they're not underwater, meaning they have enough equity, means that if you were to praise it, property has enough value versus what they owe, which is a smaller amount that has equity they can use to take on the next purchase of a property. And they don't have a lot of different loans going on. So a lot of investors in real estate
yeah,
use like hard money, right?
yeah.
Hard money is like a nice, quick, easy way to buy a property, fix it up, and then you should actually either
So
sell it
what's
or
Can you explain? Can you explain hard money?
yeah, just quick.
hard money
Yeah.
is not, you don't go through a bank. You're going through somebody who has like a private line
Okay.
of equity or cash to use. You have to have a fairly strong credit score, 700, but hard money is like you get it faster than
So
you
is it
would.
1 year loan or is it 1 month loan? What is that? How's that work out?
Typically is a 1 year loan, depends on the terms and what you need
Okay.
to do. If you
Got
are
it.
buying a property to fix it up, you're
Got it.
probably going to have a loan that's like 14 months. It
So
depends
can
on
anybody be like a credit for hard money? Just wondering, how's that work?
not anybody.
Is this like
Not
a?
anybody.
Yeah, so this is like a private investor in.
It is like a private investor.
Okay.
I'm honestly not the expert on it because I don't do hard money
Got it.
lending, but I know a lot of investors who utilize it. So
Got
it
it.
usually comes with a smaller group, private group. They have a little bit of warehouse line to give. They have a cap.
Got it.
Like unlike say a bank who may have a little bit more money
Of
behind them to
course.
constantly and endlessly lend. So you have to pay that money back though to that hard money lender, usually within a year. 12 months to 14 months. It's at a higher interest rate because it's money on hand that they're giving you to get the
Yep.
deal done. And it's
But
you
a
gotta
shorter
get it
term lease.
Got it.
shorter term lease. Yeah. So you're paying quite a hefty price on it once
So
you're
they gotta
about
move. Those investments gotta move regardless. Gotta flip. They
they
gotta flip.
do. They do. So smart investors make sure they have enough cash flow to take care of down payments, but they also know they shouldn't have too many like outstanding debts like hard money loans or other
Gotcha.
mortgages
So they
that
reduce the liability a lot. So
yep, they have to reduce their liability a lot. So you don't ever want to be an investor and you aren't liquid enough.
Yeah.
And then you have too much debt hanging on there. Because if you
Gotcha.
get to me, who's working with a correspondent lender or at a bank or bank or whichever mortgage
Yep.
company, we're looking at all those debts you have that you're leveraging. That hurts you from the lending perspective. Now, other investors do a really good job of making sure they have their business credit established. Why that's so important is because now you have an LLC that should be profitable, meaning bringing income in that you can now take out your loans under instead of having to talk to me. You can do it under your LLC, which would be commercial lending.
Gotcha.
So those are the things that I see from good, strong real estate investors.
I'm glad to hear that because I feel like obviously everyone does their investment strategy differently. They have their own thing, but I'm pretty sure there's some of them because they're being so successful. They have something in common.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah.
You should always. You're not going to be profitable right away, but the focus has to be on how do you get a cash flow.
Yeah.
Because if you want to leverage that cash flow, especially if you have everything under an LLC, that's what you want to keep borrowing under that. You're gonna have to have a cash flow because now you leverage that. If you can't or don't have cash flow, then you have to do something called a personal guarantee, which means I'm not looking at your specific credit,
your own personal stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And if your personal stuff is out of whack because you've been doing everything through your LLC and not properly balancing out how much debt you have versus the income, you might not be able to get a loan.
Yeah. And it's just a lot of financial literacy myself, and for the for folks who wants to become an investor in itself, for folks who want to get into that. I feel like this is just, that's a little fraction of that. We're just learning but I feel like there's a lot more, obviously.
There's so much more. And because I really deal with like retail and from first time home buyers, if I'm dealing with investors, it's because they don't have business credit. They don't have a fully fully cash flow LLC. So
Gotcha.
now we're leveraging against their credit. And that's really how you start. You're not going to start out with,
So let me ask you this, obviously your demographic is a little bit more minority, right? And is that done on purpose? Just wondering.
No, but I'm Black, you guys. So
Oh my God.
I
Is this
know
for
you
real?
didn't know. So no, I'm Black. I have friends and business partners all over the place of many different races. But the reality is, I am an expert in a financial industry that most minorities don't have access to.
Of course.
I don't have interest in. So now they're all starting to get excited. You do business with those who look like you, who you trust. It is what it is. So it's not purposeful, but
I feel like that's awesome for you at the same time, though, because not only that empowers you a little bit more, but it's also opens your door opportunity for you to build your personal brand. So
absolutely, and I do business with anybody. I'm promise you, I'm not biased, but I'm always going to have a little, honestly, because of this shirt, Build Generational Wealth and Chill. I'm always going to have a little bit more focus on historically marginalized groups. Sorry, it is what it is. We know you can look up the history, you can go through the guidelines, the reason why the CFPB even exists, the reason why there are laws against redlining or reverse redlining is because of the ways in which Black and brown individuals in this country have been limited from having the opportunity to even build generational wealth.
It's true. It's 100% true. And it's historical reading, you cannot deny that for sure.
Nope. So I'd be a liar and say, oh yeah, no. I'm definitely here to make sure I'm helping those who are qualified and even those who aren't, getting them qualified to be able to buy real estate. But I'm also working with any client that I get my hands on to educate and assist with the next steps in their real estate goals.
That makes sense, because I feel like that once, because obviously as you build your own personal brand, you can bring the education piece of it, and then they may come back to you for that final business, as your relationship building at the end of the day.
That's right on the nose. Look at you, Michael.
You got it.
He out here trying to be a brand consultant. You might have a little side hustle. Okay.
No, but I've seen a lot of so I have a friend of mine. His name is John Saunders. He started out as a working as a web developer, and then he built his own brand. His focus on is pretty much Black-owned businesses right now, and he focuses. He actually builds his target. I guess his demographic is Black-owned businesses to help them bring up the digital assets up. So, for example, enhance their websites, enhance their digital brand. And he even created like I guess a side business where it's not a business, it's more like value, right? So he created a lot of those African Americans icons from. So you can use leverage those avatars for the branding, for the marketing, things like that. And now he's branching now slowly to a little bit, to expand his portfolio. So he's building his own generational wealth gap. And I talked to him a little bit more about that piece. And he understands that more because obviously he has a kid, and he's like, he feels that more, I feel like, but he's doing really well for himself. I know him from high school, and then we have a lot of mutual friends coming in common, but time after time, I didn't talk to him for like maybe 7-8 years from high school to college. And then for some reason we just reconnected. And it's not because I saw his brand. It's just more like a friend of a friend. He started connecting, and then talked about him, and then I started talking to him a little bit more in there. I'm like, hey, I'm in Pines right now, catch up with lunch, and then that's how we started talking again. But yeah, it's I guess the same exact goals we are, where we're trying to build our own generation wealth. So
it's so important to be flexible too at this point. We're in the craziest of times, I feel like, in regards to internet and leveraging the internet to build wealth and to build business and brand and marketing, where you see one day somebody literally has 5 followers on Instagram and TikTok or whatever. Next thing you know, they go viral, and now they're marketable on YouTube, and they get clicks and they get ad endorsements. And to me, it's nuts, because it completely shifts the way in which you live your life. But it's nuts because there's so many different ways for us to do this.
I agree. You just gotta find that one platform that you can resonate with. That's what it comes down to. So let me ask you this, Liz. So during COVID time, how did that impact your business?
Oh man. So I did the crazy.
How did you pivot? Just wondering.
So when I changed companies,
Okay.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, craziest thing to ever do is to change lenders. I changed
During the
companies
COVID time or before COVID? Sorry.
literally 2 weeks before. I changed companies at the end of February last year, and about 2 weeks later, the
Before
world
the
shut
shutdown. Got it.
Wow.
Okay.
And what made my pivoting in business so much, it was a smart decision, anxiety inducing, of course, whenever you change companies. But what helped is that the company I'm with now is completely tech driven, meaning they throw so much money at tech and being at the forefront of technology that I transitioned and everything was like, oh, we're all have to work from home. Just grab your monitor. Our infrastructure can support the workload.
So they were already adapting regardless no matter what.
Yeah, they were already adapted. So I just moved from what I call the dinosaur ages at the one lender, which they're just behind the ball.
Yeah.
And went to the new one. And when I tell you, it was just like seamless. There was no delays. There was no lags. So it allowed me to stay on top of what's happening with my clients. Personally, for me, I just had to increase my social media presence. What I was doing before was I was at housing counseling sessions, talking as a lender, presenting
in person, like physically.
Yeah, physically in person, talking to rooms 50, 80,000 people. I'm sorry, 80 people, not 80,000, 80 people at a time. People get a sense for who you are in person. And that's what, then you get to really turn it on, a little light, a little jazz. Here I am, all this personality, energy, and knowledge to help you buy this home.
Yeah.
So the hard part was transitioning for how do I bring that same amount of energy and put that over.
It's the same vibes.
The internet.
Yeah. That's hard. It's definitely
hard. I feel like when you're on the internet, you need more energy, because you need to overemphasize how much energy you have.
Listen, I'm a high energy person until I hit that little moment at the end of the day where don't talk to me. I just want my Manhattan,
or you just keep drinking. It's fine. Just keep drinking.
Music in the background. But so everyone had to pivot, and this industry is. Sorry, you guys.
Soon after.
We have some technical difficulty along the way.
Yeah. Here we go.
Sorry, you know what? I forgot I had my Gmail up and my clients all call my Google Voice number. So we were doing so good too. But so the thing about changing everybody in the industry is a little bit older. It's an old boys club, unfortunately. And so that means all the way from the housing counselors to some people in the industry, like there's a younger group of us coming up in the real estate mortgage industry, but there's just not enough. So everyone had to shift to going online. And so what that meant for all the counseling agencies, we all had to go virtual. Then it's a matter of who do you have your strongest relationships with. So I'm in Zooms at least every other week. I'm now starting to ramp up my content on my social media page on Instagram.
So are you on TikTok too?
I am not on TikTok because I just download TikTok to my phone. I'm sorry. It's just, I can't. I'm gonna stick to reels.
That's good. It's a good idea because it's super addicting and wastes a lot of your time.
So it's the time waste that I'm worried about.
But a lot of your time, yeah.
I'll figure it out. But I have a more virtual presence, and I'm doing. I'm probably this is like my third podcast at this point. I'm really on top. Yeah. I gotta do it. I gotta put my name out there one way or another.
So let me ask you this: Are you in Clubhouse too? Because I feel like there's that kind of group who will suit you really well because they have conversations, things like this.
They sure do. I do not have an iPhone.
Wait, what?
No iPhone.
Oh yeah, because they only launched for OS right now. That's right.
Right, and I tried to put it on my.
It won't work.
Touch. Yeah, I have an iPod Touch. It's not the updated OS. So I've pretty much laid to rest because there's some heavy hitters that I follow in the real estate world of investing who have been on these Clubhouse chats, and I'm just sitting. I'm just the kid outside on the playground, like.
It's been definitely interesting. I've been addicted to that lately, and the past week or so. By the way, I was telling Robert earlier, I was like, I got an email back last year, July 2020. I just ignored it.
Yeah, I can't believe you did that. Like. If I had it back like last year,
I thought it was a spam from my friend. I thought my friend was a spam.
No, it wasn't spam. So the crazy part about it is,
so for people who don't know what Clubhouse is, you guys want to explain that out?
The cult. I'm joking.
Not a cult.
It's not a cult. Clubhouse is like I equate it to like talk radio.
Audio style is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a audio social media where people just go on into different rooms and have conversations. And a lot of big name influencers are on there. Like influencers meaning like business minded people, tech people. Yeah.
It is heavy tech driven right now,
Entrepreneurs.
healthcare driven, entrepreneurs, leadership driven right now for sure.
Yeah.
You started seeing the branched out a little bit more now towards like influencing marketing, a little bit more towards the to the creative side of things. They have the clubs and they have the rooms, two different things obviously. So you follow a club, you can tell when they're going to have the talks. And so the more activity that you do in it, the more you get involved or ask questions, the more, I guess, they open up the different hallways for you to see different things. And I noticed that because I started asking questions for certain talks in it, and I started seeing different things of what people follow them, and I do see that eventually you will have a lot of nonsense in it for sure, just like every social media. So, but it's definitely useful right now because it's stuff that I asked. By the way, I asked ZZS last night. He's the CEO of Binance, which is a crypto exchange.
Yeah.
I asked him the question last night, and he answered it. So that's pretty cool.
What did you ask? You asked, how do I get money off of my Binance account?
No, because they talked about Binance Smart Chain. I asked him, what do you see that evolve in the next 5 years? That's all it was. So,
yeah.
But I mean, I would never have the opportunity to talk to him about that. You know what I mean? Like,
and the thing is, it's such a great networking opportunity. I'm thankful that a lot of people that I want to network with, I found other ways to network with them. But I'm so against buying an iPhone. I'm so against it. Like, and
you have an iPad already, though.
You know what? The thing is, I have an iPod, but it's like it doesn't work. And that iPod is like 2-3 years old before I got Spotify on my smartphone. So
they have some good products. It's just all overpriced. But yeah,
it is overpriced.
And I think that's where at my heart.
It's because you have that investment, that investment rule, and you're like, oh, I could spend $1,000 on an iPad, but now it's $2,000 for an iPad because I have to go invest it too.
It's nuts. Like after, like for me, it's just a matter of I feel like every second I'm looking at upgrades, and I'm an Android user. I promise I'm not bougie about it or a Nazi about it. I'm an Android user. I've been an Android user for God knows how long. I literally this phone, whenever I get an Android phone, it's with me until till the very end. It is. It means I can't.
I change my phone every 3 years or 3 to 4 years. I don't change I don't update my iPhone. So I've been an iPhone since the very beginning, like very first generation iPhone and everything like that. And I have also used an Android for me. I just felt like the security behind the iPhone was a little bit better. The ease of usage obviously was definitely better, but obviously Android has more flexibility. It's a little bit more open source to do different things. I 100% agree in that part.
And
I think they're more innovative.
Especially hardware
if you like, I feel like if you want to be at the at the front of tech, then Android's the way to go.
But I feel like their front end user experience doesn't justify their hardware. That's what I'm trying to say. There's always a little lag behind it. That's what I feel like.
Wait, what did you say? Who are you saying?
Like I'm talking about the Androids, right? I feel like their hardware is definitely a little bit further advanced, but I feel like their front end, the UI, it takes a little while to catch up to the.
Because it's brand new tech, right? Like they don't know how to utilize it. But yeah, I just
then don't roll it out. Then don't roll it out. Then you don't use it.
No. I don't think that's the way, right? I feel like the people first in line need to put it out there. Otherwise, it'll never advance.
That's true. I agree.
Like if none of these Android people did anything like pushing forward, Apple would never push forward either.
I agreed.
So
110% there.
Yeah, like they need to push this out, and then then Apple comes in, puts it into their stuff, and then it goes mass spreads out to everyone. Right? That's
Listen, somebody needs to gift me an iPhone at this point.
That's
just really where I stand. I was
honestly
really
like I maybe not an iPhone. I think you should get an iPad. Like of the like iPads, tablet stuff. iPads are by far the best, and you should.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
Okay.
And the big ones are nice too. The big ones. I got one from my.
I think iPads are definitely like top of the line. Like no one's innovating in tablets either. They're just
not anymore. Not
anymore. Oh no, not anymore. I think the Surface was the last one that I thought was actually doing something innovative, and they've kind of gotten quiet.
Oh, they went flat. 100% agree. They went flat.
I mean, Surfaces are good, but like they're turning those into laptops anyways. So then it's really a laptop more than a tablet.
I guess it's a convertible. Like you can flip it into whatever. The point that I'm making is I may consider getting an iPad.
There we go.
There you go. I got you.
But then I have to pay for it twice. because I have to invest the money
There we go.
into Apple.
That's the thing. Like your rule really makes you think about your purchase.
Yeah.
Now
That's
I'm
so true though.
Like, if I can still get access to the information and the people that I want to get access to via Twitter, Facebook, and just personal relationships, you're not gonna sell me on Clubhouse anytime soon.
I agree.
I'm so hungry for it until I realize.
But I also feel like they're still driving that traffic to Instagram or towards Twitter though too. I've noticed that a little bit more.
You know what I think is good about Clubhouse though is like they had AMAs on Reddit, and like it's such a good platform, and like this is just a more
audio version of it.
Audio, it's more real time. Like it's like you ask a question and it gets an immediate response, and you could hear them talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's
you can also hear how genuine it is.
Right, and you can hear if they're genuine or not. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so.
Like today, I was just hearing about Les Brown. I'm not sure for those who know who he is. Is pretty much is a speaker who he's so good. Like it's just general storytelling why. But yeah, like just
what does he
hearing
do?
him. I mean, he's been a he's a speaker. He started, I guess, back in the days, the Toastmasters, and then how he explained how he got better at storytelling. He's done a lot of things. I mean, he's turning 76 next week or something like that. But yeah, this guy was on Clubhouse. I was like, what the heck,
Motivational speaker.
Yeah, he's a motivational speaker, but I think he was like a former radio guy before that, like in Ohio, and that's he's a natural speaker in general. But it's just that I think also was his House representative as well in Ohio too. But anyway, this guy
House representative in Ohio.
Yeah, but yeah, this guy is just he joined this leadership club thingy, and they were talking about how powerful storytelling is. He literally showed an example of a random guy. He asked about his mother, the 3 adjectives that he described his mother, and he told a whole story about him right away.
Oh wow!
I was like, what the heck?
Wow.
What? Like just off of those 3 words?
Those 3 words, how he described the other guy described his mother. He's told a 3 to 5 minute story about him right away.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And so like just noticing that, like, that's another level of just speaking. Storytelling. That's a whole different level. Anyway, but for me, like this is why I became addicted to it. It's like I'm like, holy shit! I would never. I had no idea who Les Brown was before this fucking talk today.
No, I'm definitely gonna look him up.
Yeah. But anyway, and so we're gonna sidetrack a little bit more. But so, but I was saying,
part.
I know, but let me ask you this, Liz. I mean, obviously, you were mentioning how you pivot your business, right? And you try to build more content. You have your YouTube channel, I'm guessing, as well.
Not yet. Listen, I'm a one-woman show right now. I will hopefully have an assistant very soon, but as I'm still a one-woman show, I'm kind of leveraging things like podcasts where I'm featured and doing reels, which is already enough of a time investment.
It is.
So there is no YouTube. I have a podcast coming. I'm still teasing that out because I really do want it to focus on the career transitions and all that entails. But that's also different too, talking into the abyss of a microphone as in interacting for me is a very different.
Yeah.
So 100% agree. I feel like when I do it for myself, like I have these challenges I do every year. I'm like, man, I have to be recorded 5 more times, 6 more times before I said it correctly. Just having that energy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's definitely hard.
And not having another person, like you need someone else to like bounce off of, as well, and like have like you bring each other energy, right? Otherwise, it's hard to just talk out into the screen. I did just like we did like at work we did like it's basically like we talk about ourselves for I don't know 5-10 minutes, and like we just have 3 slides on ourselves, and everyone's on mute, everyone's on Zoom, and I'm just talking, and I'm like cracking jokes, and I hear nothing, and I'm just like, oh, this is so weird.
Everyone's distracted. Everyone's like, look at 5
I don't think
yes.
everyone's distracted. Everyone is just on mute, so then you don't hear the reaction, which is like what you normally get when you're like speaking, right? Like I'm used to like, oh, I'm gonna say this, everyone's gonna laugh, it's gonna be great, and like it motivates me more, like I get more energy from it, but like no, none of that, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that wasn't a funny joke, but then I'm looking, everyone's muted, so it's really like it's just weird to talk into. You
gotta look for their facial expressions, right, like did they laugh? Did you laugh? No, I agree wholeheartedly. So it's been an interesting transition. I'm getting there. It's also the the removing the security blanket of I'm kind of here, but I'm not here.
That's
Because like,
yeah.
as a lender, you're there, you're in the transaction, but you're not nearly as involved as a realtor.
That's
Your
true.
personality, people don't always get a full appreciation for who you are. So when we start talking about working into social media
Yeah.
and advertising and marketing and branding, now it's really like, okay, all the safety nets are gone.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, it is.
But not only that though, like you're not the paper pusher anymore.
Yeah.
See, that's a whole different story though. So
whole nother conversation, man.
all right, we're gonna
Whole nother
pivot.
beast.
We're gonna pivot a little bit right now. So we're gonna go into our extra MSG session, our funny session. So Robert, you want to start with yours?
Sure, yeah. Let me send you what I have. I saw this on TikTok, but I also there's a link on Twitter as well, or Reddit that as well. Let me show it. It's a video of a guy who is I think this is in Hollywood.
So the title's called "The Best Magic Trick You Ever See."
Yeah, so this guy is showing a magic trick to these people in a car.
Okay.
And you just watch, like, he has all of these flyers, and
Yep.
he's like, "I'm gonna show you a trick. It's not what you think. Just pick any one that you want."
They all look the same. The flyer.
But
Yeah.
I'll show you some. Pick one. Any one you want. That's the one you want. Are you
I
sure?
literally watched them like, okay.
Got him.
So basically, he just had them pick a card, and then he's like, "That's the one. All right, thanks." And that was his whole goal was to pass out flyers, right? Like that's.
What is the magic trick? Oh, that's so awesome! Oh man, I'm gonna use that. That's creative. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that was good. I looked at that. I was like, man, this guy.
That's very creative, though. You want to go next, Liz?
Yeah. Okay, hold tight. I saved the link just so I could easily put it in the group chat.
Can y'all hear it?
All right.
But sometimes I struggle. All right. So this is kind of work related for me because again, working with first time home buyers, a lot of them are millennials or Gen Zers. And everyone loves Cash App.
Yeah.
Cash App is great. It's not a bank account. I just want to put this on there right now. It's not a bank account. So it says, lender, I need 2 months of bank statements. But I was like, oh, I have Cash App. And the lender's like, what? I can't. I can't. Like it happens so often that makes me laugh. You'd be surprised.
Cash App may be maybe easy to use. You may be able to buy fractional stocks, but it's not for the house buying or refinancing process. That is hilarious.
No, please don't. Like the whole face is like, that's not a bank account. What do you?
That's not a bank account.
Go open a bank account. Please, just go down the street to your credit union.
Wait, Venmo? Can you have Venmo statements too?
You can. Venmo is actually because Venmo is tied to your bank account. Venmo is actually a far more reliable source of cash flow or transfer than cash.
I didn't know you could have Cash App. Like, I don't think I've used Cash App.
I used Cash App before Venmo, actually, before Venmo.
Oh, before Venmo. I think Venmo has like taken over that market for me. I had PayPal before, right? PayPal into Venmo.
Yeah.
To send money to everyone else. I don't think I've ever used Cash App, and I never even downloaded
Cash App's easier though. Believe it or not, Cash App I thought was the easier one.
Why is it easier?
You know what? Because you can Cash App had the ability for you to instantly download or instantly deposit money into your account before Venmo. Venmo didn't actually have that option.
Correct.
Cash App was really like, you send me money, I can instantly download it into my
right
bank
away,
and I have it available to use. Venmo wasn't quite there, so. The crazy part is
you don't have to have your bank account connected to this Cash App.
You do. You don't have to, but you do.
How do you put money onto it if you don't have
credit card? You can use credit card.
You can use a credit card, bank card.
Other card, and you can send money to people with a credit card.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my god, that sounds like bad idea. That sounds horrible.
So Venmo does it.
You're going on credit to send people money. That's.
Well, you can do that right now with Venmo as well, but they charge a fee of 3%.
Right. There's a fee. Yep. So like, who wants to do that?
A lot of people does that, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, there's people that want to do it, but like for me, I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna spend extra money when I have cash to send to people.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. Again, Cash App is just easy.
Yeah.
You know, I actually use it to this day. I use Venmo and I use Cash App. But I use Cash App when I gotta send somebody something quickly.
Yep.
They're fine. Venmo's like, you get it when you get it, but it's there for you to utilize.
Do
For
you
the
use
purposes of buying a house, though,
uh-huh. Don't use
PayPal,
it?
Can't use
Venmo,
it.
Venmo.
Can I
Listen,
send you can I
PayPal,
send you a down
Venmo.
deposit, the deposit
Yeah,
payment
my
to
deposit is in my Venmo.
you?
I'm gonna send it over.
So the reality is, because Venmo will give you a monthly statement, your name is tied to it. The problem with Cash App is like you got like this little money sign and a nickname, and
yeah.
we
That's
don't
true.
really know
The
if it's
username,
you.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know if it's you
I
or
swear
not.
this is my username. Warren Buffett
Yeah.
is my username.
Listen, you can have the Mandalorian 26, whatever the hell your username is, right? Like this is the way. We're not. That's not gonna. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. I tell my clients, it's like, oh, I have Cash App. Do not bring Cash App to a lender and say this is what I have.
This is my statement. Yeah.
No, like you really. They have Zelle now because it's a thing. Like the banks finally caught on to what Cash App and PayPal and Venmo were doing.
Yeah.
So it's like Zelle, PayPal, Venmo. Those are the three that are a lot easier to work with and track movement of money. But Cash App is a terrible way.
Hey, listen, Facebook came out with their thing too called Facebook Pay. So
Oh my God, Facebook.
Can we use Apple Pay and Google Pay for it too?
They are far more reliable, but I would advise not.
You know, I'm learning so much. I'm not gonna bring my Cash App to a lender anymore.
Please don't say I have $16,000 sitting in Cash App. What? Put that in a bank account, please.
Yeah, it's sitting there waiting for me to send over to someone. I'm sending it down as a deposit.
Listen, you have to. Folk have got to remember that the banks are still really old. Even if you have lenders that are pretty progressive, banks are still pretty old.
Yeah, you were talking about that. Like you moved to a new company, and it's like technology was like way above. I remember working at Merrill Lynch, like Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and they're a huge company, but they're archaic in technology, like archaic.
But I feel like they do it on purpose sometimes, though. Do you think?
Maybe it's on purpose, and it's also like they have to spend so much money on infrastructure.
But it's for control. It's for control. It's for control.
Enough money to spend on tech. Yes. They just refuse
to
spend the money on the tech because they don't know how to use PowerPoint. That's my theory. That's it. Like at this point, you are literally dealing with baby boomers who have no idea how to rotate the daggone PDF.
Oh, yeah, no, I came into Merrill Lynch and they loved me. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll write some Excel formulas for you. You know,
exactly.
Amazing stuff.
Who's still worried about Excel formulas? We already know how to do that. You have several different ways to do.
No, you have to put that on your resume. If you want to get into Bank of America Merrill Lynch, I'll tell you right now. You put Excel on your resume, you're gonna get called back right away.
No, but I also feel like it's a control thing, to be honest with you.
It is
an experience. Let me tell you, I've been into different financial payment services clients. It's done on purpose. I feel like, to be honest, on the top level, to a certain degree, it is on purpose for sure.
I think it's also like there's a lot of, and maybe this is why they do this on purpose. Also, is that they put a lot of barriers to implement anything.
Yeah.
And you only cripple yourself in a market that is advancing towards more technology and not less. And the funny thing about it is I do know it's part of it is about control and stop, red tape and stops that they put in place. But also it is just a complete and total level of ignorance in regards to where everything is progressing. And so where other companies see it and they go for it, they're the Silicon Valleys of whatever company you want to pick, whether it's lending, finance. You're still here in the space of, oh yeah, we're getting there. By the time you get there, we would have progressed another 10 years ahead of you. And you were just now where we were.
Yeah.
Maybe they're taking the Apple route where they're just like, we're gonna let you guys make sure the technology is good, and then we will put it in place.
Hey, our iPhone was there first, okay? So
I'm not getting.
Know.
We're not
about that.
I know.
We're not doing it.
So all right, so click on my link. This is my funny thing.
Okay.
It kind of blends into our talk today a little bit. So pretty much the title is called salesmanship. The first square in the top left corner pretty much is a guy robbing somebody. He says, money in the bag right now. The Robert with a mask on. And he says, and the guy says, okay, just please don't shoot. And the sales guy's like, while you're here, why not invest that money into one of our newer super savings accounts? And the robber thinks about it. It's like, that's not a bad idea. Here you go. Wait a minute.
That's a good salesman right there. He almost got him.
Hilarious. I like that. I like that.
Oh yeah, always be selling, always
Yeah.
be
Always
closing.
Always be
listen.
closing. ABCs.
Always,
ABCs.
always be selling. Always be closing. Okay. Hashtag. Listen. I'm sure I annoy some of my friends. They're like, "Okay, Liz." I'm like, "I'm sorry, I can't turn it off." It's you talk about wealth building investment. I'm already gonna be like, "So what are you doing with your mortgage? Are you refinancing? Are you purchasing? Are you saving?" I can't turn it off. I'm already in like, I gotta educate mode. Let's figure out the next steps. Here's some people you can talk to.
Yeah.
It's amazing how often I'm like, people are like, "Oh, well, what should I?" was like, you know what? Shop with 3 lenders. Make me one of them. Shop 2 others. If
Yep.
you don't get better terms and deals, come see me.
Yeah. That works. So do you work only in Jersey area?
Nope, I am licensed currently in 8 states. So I'm licensed in Cali,
Wow, 8 states.
Illinois, Michigan,
Is it hard
Georgia.
to license it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think right now how much time you took.
Is there like
Uh,
one big one that's like, oh, this one will get me everywhere versus
No. So
no?
there's the one that keeps you
Every state's
licensed
different.
in
Every state.
general. Yeah. But then I have to take testing for each state. And I only gauge that based on the amount of network connections I have in that state.
I
So
see.
let me ask you this: so how long does a license last before you renew it?
I have to renew every year. It's absolutely insane.
So you had to take 8 tests every year.
Dang.
Holy
Yep. Yep.
Holy crap.
F that.
Remember that parallel
This
between
is-
medicine, guys?
F
Also,
that.
this is also
F
this
that.
is why like you're not licensed in every state because you have to
Yeah.
take 50,
Yeah.
50 tests a year. One test a week.
Yeah, there was a point where I was licensed in 22 states.
Jesus.
Just from because when you're in a bank, when you're federally under banks, you're federally, licensed. So I don't
Yeah.
have to do individual licenses. Just wherever the bank is located,
Of
I can do
course.
business. The challenges with that are if your bank is not licensed, is not in every state, like Bank of America or Wells Fargo,
Yeah.
which are interesting companies to work for. That's all I will say. I will
Yeah.
work for them.
Yeah.
I have to, it limits my ability to do business.
Wait,
So
these banks aren't these national banks aren't in every state.
They're
That's
not.
not all of them. Nope.
Yeah, not all of them.
So there are quite a few banks that aren't there. They hold a certain specific region.
Yeah.
But
Like,
and
like
they
Chase,
have,
I know Chase is not in every single state either though.
no, but Chase is
Yeah.
definitely they are strategically in states that bring a fair share of market.
Mhm,
Yes.
yeah.
So you know what I mean? They're going to be in Washington State. They're going to be in Cali. They're going
Yeah.
to be
Florida, things like that. Yeah,
Florida,
correct.
and
Yeah,
Texas. You know what I mean? And then somewhere between there. But they have a nice, strong online platform. I will say for Chase.
Okay.
But yeah. So we're in the federal licensing side, you're licensed wherever the bank has a depository or a branch. When you go to correspondent lending, which means we're a non-depository, but we still do lending, I then have to apply for each state, and I gauge that based on the amount of business I'm going to do in each state yearly.
Yeah.
And that's always based on my network personally, and then how I'm building out my network.
Gotcha. So I wish I'd talked to you first because I just refinanced my house, and I didn't know that, so I didn't know any
Okay.
better.
Okay.
Well, actually, are you licensed in Florida? I'm just curious.
I am.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. See, I literally, me and my friend were talking about it. We both just refinance our house because like, oh, this is such a good rate right now.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I mean, I don't need the money, but I could always use some cash. So
Yeah.
Listen,
whatever.
Savings are savings at this point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if it's a saving for me at this point right now, and so I'm like, why not? And
Mhm.
literally, I dropped about 2.5%, so it's great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's huge saving.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm putting clients
Yeah.
clients who are solid and good to go. We're talking 2.5. One of them I'm putting to a 2%.
It's
Actually,
so crazy. I was like, what the heck?
if you're just listen, that's the benefit of again being prepared, being ready, having your finances in order. You can take advantage of moments like this.
Yeah. So
It's nuts.
so okay, pivoting to that conversation, right? So I think we kind of I want to talk about the wealth gap. Obviously, we because of COVID, we definitely seen a huge transition of wealth. However, let's talk about pre-COVID, right? I feel like we were on a trend, at least to slowly close the gap a little bit. Not as rapidly enough.
Were you?
But
Do you really think so? Before this pandemic, you thought the rich were not getting richer and the poor were not getting poor.
well, to a certain degree, yes and no, right? So okay, the reason why I'm
Middle class has been
kind-
shrinking for
I
years.
agree with that part. I'm not disagreeing with
Do
that
we
part.
still have a middle class? That's existing right now.
No, but-
I'm hoping there is because that I want to be like that's where I always tell everyone
Listen,
I
I gotta tell you. I just want to break this to you gently, Robert.
Yeah.
You're either wealthy or you're not at this point, in my opinion.
Mm.
That's truly how I feel about it. I don't think we really have much of a middle class because we're all getting gutted equally the same way if we don't make a certain amount of income.
Yes, that is true. I mean, it also depends which state you live at as well, too, though. Keep that in mind.
Yep.
I think the top and bottom of middle class has expanded because
Okay, that's a good way to put that. I
that's
agree.
what like I think the super rich are at a higher level, and the
Mhm.
super poor I don't know. Maybe the bottom is not shrinking, but I think the top is
Yeah.
definitely
Expanding.
expanding. And it's still, and the middle class is still shrinking. So like we're increasing that range, and we're still shrinking in size, right?
So I mean, I'm not saying okay. So let me take that one step back. So I feel like the wealth, from a picture perspective, it looks like the wealth gap may be closing, but I do agree that how the middle class is shrinking, right? And it's counterintuitive, what I'm saying. But I mean, so when I started looking at this before, I started looking at the data, and I was looking at the Federal Reserve data, and
Mhm.
obviously you can see by each race how the obviously as the wealth gap, it shows like how it's becoming bigger and bigger. Like literally, it's
Mhm.
just the stats, and but but there's a perception though. I don't know why there's a perception of how I guess maybe in our generation of how maybe we're surrounded maybe by our own bubble. I guess it seems like at least from a image perspective that okay we can help close the wealth gap if we do certain things. But it was gonna take a while. Obviously, I it's
What?
So
I didn't
I
follow that.
so my thought process on it is, and again, I speak from the place of which I can relate the most.
yeah
Being a double minority, I'm a woman and
yeah
I'm also Black. So the reality is, my life is framed and viewed from that standpoint. It's not necessarily limitations, not necessarily an advancement, it's just an observation and an existence.
yep
And that's the best way I'm going to blanket this for anyone listening.
okay.
So there was one of the investors who's also on Clubhouse, but she's from Philly. I love her piece of her name is Aisha Selden. So the reality is for blacks in America, if you're African American, home ownership is actually lower today than it was probably like 19 I want to say like 1950 1960. I gotta find the article.
Is it lower
um
Ah, it's
really?
lower. Okay.
yeah, it's lower. So think about that. Think
You
about
you
what that
you
means.
but you would think the opposite of that though. See,
You would, but
that's
think
what,
about
well,
that's what I'm saying.
but
Think about what that
that's what I'm
means.
trying to say though. Like that's the image I'm trying to say. You would think
Yeah,
it's a lot higher, but it's not though.
it's worse. So think about how many rules were not in place. You still had reverse redlining. You had
Yeah,
redlining, reverse redlining. You had blatant discrimination in the housing market. Banks were not lending to minorities or Black people at all. You know what I'm saying? Like these are all things. All that has shifted, but understand that the cost of living has gone up, not necessarily income.
yep,
Um, the fact that there were so many generations left out of buying homes, which was the number one way to achieve the American dream,
yep.
you don't have the generational wealth in order to keep home ownership going
To
or to,
build upon it. That's what he's saying.
yeah, to build upon it. So to think of it in 2021, we're now saying, man, 50 years ago, Black home ownership was actually higher than
Yeah,
it is today, with as much as we are running in regards to particularly Black women in regards to degrees, um, owning businesses,
yeah,
where we see a lot of progression in that realm in entrepreneurship,
yep.
we're still not obtaining some of the pinnacles of adulthood in the American dream, which for me is saying that the net wealth gap actually is getting larger, and we're now finding ourselves disadvantaged. And I haven't looked at all numbers for every
Yeah.
demographic group, but I
No,
speak
but
like
that's what I'm trying to say to so Robert. What I was trying to say earlier is that that example because it seems like maybe getting closer, but it's not that image perception is not. It's actually false.
Mhm.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
when I started looking at this at like the stats itself, and actually here's a link for the Federal Reserve one here,
Yeah.
and it's actually getting larger per each the wealth gap, but the perception is different though. You see what I'm saying? Like the image, if everybody thinks it's shrinking, but it's not though.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, for me
So
though, I don't see the wealth gap closing. Like I don't think it's closing. I don't know, like you're saying like perception and stuff, but from my standpoint, the perception is the rich are getting richer and everyone else is getting poor. It's not like
And
it's not like the gap isn't closing at all. They're just getting way big. Also, like you're saying, how like home ownership has gone down for the Black community. It's the richer are getting smarter and hiring people to get smarter, so they're buying up all of these things that
That's
like
true.
normally would go to like lower like other people,
agreed.
but now they're
Yeah.
buying everything and then
They get
renting
more
it out,
cash, so they
and
have more
then they're
cash.
bringing in cash flow and getting
Yeah.
themselves richer. So
It's a
like
cycle.
Agreed.
It's a cycle. It's a
yeah,
big
it's just
cycle.
like the rich have just so much uh available to them to make sure that they can increase their wealth.
Take advantage and
Yeah.
increase their portfolio, increase their wealth. I'm 100. Listen, gentrification is this really huge taboo word, unfortunately, in the investment or real estate world, because there are those of us who are minorities who are taking advantage of and using our knowledge to then invest back in in those areas, so we're a part of the wave of gentrification. But the challenge with that is when you have cities buying up complete developments or blocks that are underdeveloped, and then they hold them. This
They
happens a
hold.
lot in Philly.
They
It's happening a
purposely hold
lot.
them.
It's happening a lot in Philly, happening in Camden, happening in Baltimore.
Yeah.
I keep my hand on the pulse of a lot just to see what's happening. They buy up the land, they let it sit, don't do anything with it. And
Yeah.
then maybe an institution may also buy up like a university like Temple
Yep.
or Penn, or I'm not trying to get in trouble with anybody,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna say what it is. They buy even Johns Hopkins. I went there for
Yeah.
undergrad. They buy up the real estate, they hold it, turns into another entity or building under
Yep.
that company that makes them money.
Yep.
That brings
That's true.
them more opportunity while the community is still in shambles because of like effects of generational decisions in legislature that left people stuck. So Robert, I'm with you on that. Again, I'm here to educate.
Yeah.
and
No,
help.
and I agree on that part. Let me ask you this though. Like, I guess
Mhm.
part of it that so if I was a rich person, right, and
Mhm.
what I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just doing what I can right now, right? So
Right.
that's my job. I want to expand my portfolio and make my client happy in a sense, right?
Mhm.
But I guess what can somebody else do though? What can somebody do in terms of like do not do something like that, or do
I
you want to
mean,
bring? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure some people will want to give back, right? And how do you do that? Because at the end of the day, not, but at the same time, those folks may not be ready or have the knowledge to do it. Perhaps.
so there's a multitude of ways to give back
Mhm.
to many of the communities that have been strategically shortchanged.
Yeah, of
There
course.
are. You have to decide. You have to decide whether or not that's the where you want your moral compass to lean.
Capacity.
Because the reality is, you can start the initiatives
Yeah. Yep.
where you are putting the time and energy into educating communities,
Yep.
putting together funds or grants for those same communities. Again, Native Americans is still, where's their home ownership?
That's true.
You
That
know what
is
I'm
true.
saying? Like
Yeah,
there's so much here, and so when it comes to the way in which there's rich and then there's wealthy, when it comes to the way in which the wealthy utilize their assets to then pad and bolster their pockets, it isn't necessarily leading to, well, you know what, there's enough here for all of us. Let's figure out how we can also empower other communities to do it. There's always a one hand washing the other type of thing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you can put together the fund, you can put together the community initiative, and actually make sure you are empowering already local groups that exist in most of these cities that are focused on helping the minorities buy homes, focusing on helping these same groups become financially educated. Those programs already exist. It's the ego for me where people just assume I'm just going to go in and start my own thing. No. Their communities are already there. There are already organizations already there in every single city. Find out who they are, find out the impact they have, and then find out how you can assist them without expecting anything back in return. Because it's a tax write-off for you.
That's
At the
true.
end of the
That's
day.
true. Yeah.
It's a
So
tax write-off at the end of the day. You
let
can
me
invest
ask.
in stocks, hedge funds.
Yeah.
You got the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
Relax.
Yeah. So let me ask you this though. Like, okay, so I've seen institutions try to do this well to try to give back, but how genuine it is, do you think? Like, for example, I put a link here. How Citibank is trying to do the same thing. How they put like a $1 billion initiative to kind of help to close the racial wealth gap.
You see my face?
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna say a whole lot. You can.
But you know what I'm getting to, right? Like in a sense, right?
So again,
Honestly,
that's a one hand washes the other. The reason why you put that investment in, one, there is a tax write-off for you, but two,
Of course.
you're also expecting some type of return in regards to when when banks do things like, hey, here's what we're doing. Mortgages are a great example of, we're going to do something for a community, but we also know we're making money off of whatever it is we do for the community. End of story.
It has
There's
to
no
make
way
money
around
for
that.
them to want to even do it.
Yeah. Whenever banks put in large amounts of money or capital into
they know their ROI.
There's a return on investment, but also they have to do it in order to still be able to buy and acquire different shares and servicing. So there are rules in place.
Gotcha.
Okay. There are rules in place in regards to the reason why you may see a lot of community lending or low to moderate income lending. It serves a purpose. It does help. I'm not knocking it. But at the end of the day, most banks, when they do that, it's because they're trying to leverage themselves to do something else, whether it is acquiring, whether it is picking up other people's servicing, acquiring other small lenders that are going
really
pandemic. There's always a leverage point.
Is it to tap a different market? It's what you're trying to say?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. There's always a game to it. Whenever they do these things, it's never just, oh, we really just want to give back to the community. It's, well, we know we have to do a certain amount of this in order to, I know I want to acquire maybe 15 banks, other smaller banks that aren't, so I can increase my footprint.
It's a game for them at the end of the day.
You got to increase your footprint so you can increase your market share, so you can increase how much people see you, so you can bring in money.
Gotcha.
There's always a long-term goal, and I'm not necessarily bashing it, but you have to understand.
There's a balance that you're trying to.
But like every time a corporation is doing anything, it's
sketchy. It's
always sketchy because like their first priority is for their shareholders, right? So they have to make money for their shareholders, and that's the number one priority. So every time they do anything, even if it's things like saying Black Lives Matter type of thing, it's all PR. It's all PR. And it could have some sort of like real truth to it, but honestly, the top priority is PR for all of that stuff. And so every time anything comes out, any type of news comes out, like you have to take that grain of salt where like there is a serious PR, is all a PR move. They've gone through and talked to their PR people, making sure that this is going to show correctly to the rest of the world. And it's definitely calculated decisions every time.
And this is how we increase our sales. This is how we get our branding out there to more people. This is how we show we care. So, next time you're thinking, oh man, I really need to open up a bank account. Well, you know what bank I saw that really looked like they were for the cause?
Yeah.
I'm going to go open my bank account with them.
That's true. It's an image just to your head though.
Exactly. So I'm not, there is a benefit to it when they do it, because again, you're pulling that information to the community, but then there are also other restrictions that come with the lending game. So when they say, oh, we're putting towards closing the wealth gap, if you really want to close this wealth gap, go ahead and just get rid of my student loans if you really want to close a wealth gap. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the number one way to do that, but you're not going to do that. You're just going to continue to delay my payments for another year,
which doesn't make any sense still. Like,
just forgive the loan. Right. But do you get what I'm saying? There are good side effects to some of the more strategic planning that goes on when these larger companies do it. Everybody does it. It's a business model. Somebody want to slap my wrist about it, you can. You know where to find me. I'm not hiding. But that's what it is.
I agree with you on this because the thing is that at the same time though, like I feel like an average person doesn't know that. You gotta understand that. I mean, you're in that mindset because you've probably seen it. For me, I kind of still learning about it a little bit more, but obviously I was skeptical about it, right? But now that you put it into that perspective, it just clicks,
Yeah.
It's clicks.
I think once you get to like a business, like you talk to business-minded people, they all understand this, right? Like they understand that like, oh, this is a business. They're here to like make money. That's what they're here for. And every move that they make is calculated in some sort of way to make money.
Absolutely. And every one of these companies want access to the cream of the crop of every demographic group that exists in this country. So they're going to cast a wide net and get access to every bit of demographic that they can. And then they're going to, let me pull up strings there, pull up strings here, because I really want to sift all of this out because I really want the top tier. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because every demographic has their top tier. What are you going to do? You're going to make sure you put yourself in position to get access to that top tier. That's the game. I'm probably going to get fired by Monday, but
don't worry. The podcast won't air for another couple of weeks.
Yeah. Not Monday. Not Monday.
Okay, I got 2 weeks. But I mean, that's just that again. That's the game. that like as my existence as a brand is very much so beneficial to me and to my clients, but I understand when any company wants to hire me, I know what they're looking to leverage. So I use that leverage to my advantage, and I ask for the things that I want. Anyone who needs help negotiating an offer or a higher deal, call me. That's just what it is in sales. I would be a liar if I said, "Oh no, everything's community based and we're so focused on." No. There's a bottom line here.
You're pretty straightforward about it. That's what it comes down to. That's why. So, yeah, it is.
Do you think there are companies that are community based though? I feel like there's.
I'm sure there are though, but I mean, I'm sure there are. It's just probably
like,
small.
Because like the national banks and all this stuff, but maybe like the what is it, community? What are those banks that are community focused?
Oh, you mean like
credit unions?
Credit unions, yeah. Maybe they have a focus more on the community than, but they still have like that. They need to make money to stay in business, right?
Right.
But then
so credit unions would be a little bit more focused community, but understand because they're smaller, which means they have a smaller warehouse line of money to lend, that they have tighter restrictions in who they can lend to. But because they're smaller, they do have more flexibility than what a national bank would. This is the joy of like all I've learned. Again, this is 5 years of industry knowledge that I'm like tossing out. And it's been a wild ride of learning for me. If you how excited I get. So I'm just like, oh snap. Y'all ain't shit. Oh, okay. You're thinking y'all about something. Playing shit.
Yeah. But I mean, okay, so before we get too far in the conversation, we're talking about how the wealth gap is gonna increase, right? So I posted 2 links. One is from the Federal Reserve, and the second one is from Market Watch. It's like, so it talks about how literally, like you said, the data has been splitting more and more, between the rich and the middle class in a sense, especially in the Black communities or in the other minorities community as well. On the Federal Reserve side, if you keep scrolling down, it shows you like literally the medium net worth. You can tell from 2019. Look how there's a big discrepancy in general. And if you keep scrolling down, it's
Mike, are we in the other? Is that what we are? We're just other.
I believe so.
It's black, Hispanic, other.
Yes. You guys would be another. Yes. Yes, you would.
Another.
Yes, you would.
I've heard some people that bring us in with the whites. We're just all part of it. We're all part of the same.
My experience has been it depends who you're speaking to and how they identify, because sometimes they're like, oh no, I'm over here. I'm politely like, okay, just send me your bank statements.
So this is interesting because according to this data, though, it's kind of speaks a little bit of opposite. I mean, it's kind of weird a graph, to be honest with you. Like, I want to dissect this data with y'all folks.
What are you? Which?
So figure 2. Figure two. Yeah, it says Black Hispanic community families experience faster growth in wealth over the last 2 surveys. After experiencing larger decline of the Great Recession. Okay, so the reason why I want to bring this data up because I feel like this is controversial to a certain degree. And so each of the color represents a year. Okay, and in each of the groups, obviously it says white, Black, Hispanic, and others. Okay, but it says how you see how this data is kind of not what it seems to be.
You know what? It's funny because like say I have $100 and now I have $1,000.
Yeah.
Versus someone who has $1 million and now they have $2 million. Like that growth right there for me is like way bigger.
Yes.
Yeah. Completely different.
So this could be something like that.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say though. Like I feel like this data is kind of
misleading for sure.
Misleading, yes.
It's highly misleading. It is pointing to a trend, but it's still highly misleading.
Yes, and that's what. Keep in mind, this is the Federal Reserve website, FYI. Okay, that's what I'm trying to. But now look at the second. Now I sent a second article which talks about Market Watch, right? And this guy talks. Well, whoever wrote this, I think it's a group of people, but it literally shows the trend obviously going down. And you can see in average household wealth in general. If you scroll down to the middle, I believe it tells you that the dotted line is the white medium, and then the solid line, orange line, is the white mean, and then the dotted line of the blue one is the black medium, and then the solid blue line is the black mean. Literally, you can see. Look at the mean.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Give me a second. Let me see if I can get to the second. Because I saw the first image, which was like wealth of American families in 1966, and then I think I'm going beyond that.
We're going to we went to the Market Watch
Yeah, the
article.
market link. Yeah, article. It's an average
second,
household wealth.
second article.
Oh,
Yep.
pardon me.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, this is interesting. Where the white mean has just increased.
Yeah.
Like it just keeps going up.
Yep.
Where the mean just kind of stays the same.
Flat. They say flat and goes down or goes down a
The
little bit.
median just stays the same.
Yeah.
So this is definitely what I was saying, right? Where like
yeah.
the super rich are getting richer, but then everyone else is flatlining or going down. Like it just that's what it looks like.
Yep. So I feel like this graphic represents what we're talking about more. I don't know. The reason why I want to point this out is because there's two different data. One's from the Federal Reserve and one's from some guy who gathered there together. You know, like, I mean, I think this is a good research that they have because I think the guy quoted the sources from, and so if you scroll down, it has all the sources. And so I mean, it's from a university. So, but anyway, regardless, though, I feel like it's where you look at the data, right? People can have different discussion. It can be misleading, to be honest with you. And like you said, going back to this, you mentioned about misinformation.
Huge amounts of it.
Data can always be visualized in a way to bring your point, whatever point that you want to bring up. Like they will, like you can adjust it for whatever.
Yeah, which is why I'm not necessarily a fan of the Federal Reserve. Don't care. Whoever. I'm not. And the reason why
I'm just throwing it out there, though. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just throwing. I mean, people trust the Federal Reserve. Let's be honest.
I mean, I do to a point, but I always know. I feel like they're always lagging. I feel like you're always lagging behind real time reality of actually what you are now reporting on and what people are seeing. Because the thing is, I could easily say, yes, there's an increase in education level. There's an increase in income. There's an increase to a point in home ownership. But when you start putting numbers together from decades, from generational shifts, then you start to really see the truth of it. So
I agree.
Yes, I may have increased my income in the last 5 years as a minority, but did I decrease my debts? And did I actually increase my net worth? Because I may not have increased my net worth, even though I increased my income. Pay attention to that. But you know what I'm saying? Because that's a thing. That's a thing. So
it's very true, right? Like as I've made more salary, I've also spent more. So
my debt has gone up a little bit more too.
Debt goes up, salary goes up, debt goes up. That's how. But
it's because I feel like it's okay. Obviously, it's part of it our fault, obviously, but also at the same time, there's so much more distraction out there. There's much abundance that we want to.
No,
experience.
our system is made so that we want all of these things.
We want to consume more. We want to consume more.
Very much consumer focused.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Listen, Bezos made how much money last year?
It's so much money. He's stepping down as a CEO now.
And he's not splitting that stock. God damn it, he's not doing anything with it.
His wife took a bunch of it.
I know his wife is.
I'm just saying.
She earned it.
I totally agree.
No, I agree. I'm not saying. I'm not denying
I totally agree. She earned
I'm just saying that she took a bunch of those. So I'm just saying.
He did, but he still made.
Bezos, the whole Bezos and his wife and his ex-wife are banking off of this pandemic.
But and he's still chairman too.
Yeah, which is pay attention. You really gotta pay attention to like the moves that are made. Like, oh yeah, I'm stepping down, but your chair, sir.
He's pulling the Bill Gates move. I'm telling you now.
Oh yeah, he's about to get free in the world and start figuring out what else he can do through.
Yeah.
What do you say? What's going on?
He's doing the Bill Gates move. So he started a call. I mean, one funding. What's it called?
Oh, he started a charity.
Bezos One Funding. Hang on, what's it called? One Funding.
Is he giving away all his money the way Bill Gates is?
It's called Bezos Day One Fund. That's what it's called here. Mm-hmm. He's pulling a Bill Gates move. He's doing a chairman thing, and he's trying to figure out his next step is. Because he needs to figure out how to move his money, and listen, I'm not bashing about what he's trying to do with his charity, obviously, because at the end of the day, he'd rather control his money and do what he wants to do with his charity money than give it to the government. And I get it. We all want, because we know the government is not efficient enough to spend the money. It's just
I totally agree.
Nope.
You know,
Not even close.
Yeah, so
But
but like I'm not against this. Like Bezos Day One Fund, sure.
It's for young family communities for kids. He's trying to help kids out at the end of the day to build up pretty much impoverished families. That's what he's trying to do. So,
Yeah, I totally like what Bill Gates did. Like creating his own fund and then putting money to things that like could possibly make a difference.
right.
I think that's a great idea that like all of our super rich people need to be thinking of. Because honestly, you don't need so much money, right? Like it's great to have a super big number next to your name, but like it's also like you and the rest of your lineage will never use up this money.
that's
It's
true.
literally how you use it. It's just
Yeah.
how you use it.
No,
And
they will like Bezos will never spend all of his money.
But let me
Even if
ask you-
even if he was like the worst, like even if he like put everything in like the worst investments and then spent all of this stuff, it's so hard to spend so
Listen,
many billions of
But,
dollars.
let
the
me ask
man
you
could
this.
spend like 1.3 million a day or something crazy when it worked out
Yeah.
what money you'd have to live off. I'm like, who spends like 1.3 or 2.5 million in a day? How? How do you spend that?
Buy a house every day.
No,
But like
couple
in the
houses.
like the numbers
Couple
is like
houses.
the simple return. I think is like what 4% return
The
on
problem,
Yeah.
the problem
Oh
with
yeah,
that, Mike.
in interest. I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
Just putting money in
Right.
interest.
The problem,
But-
Mike, is that like you buy houses and then those are worth something, and you rent them out, so he's still making money off of them. You'd have to spend them on stuff
I mean,
that like
obviously,
you have to spend like $1 million on cars, like brand new cars every
you have to
day.
spend money
and then
on
it just-
liability. You have to spend money on liability, okay? But the thing is that obviously he doesn't have that in cash. Keep that in mind, guys. Okay, he doesn't have that in cash.
Right,
So-
I know it's still liquid though. It's
Yeah.
not cash, but it's either not liquid some type
Yeah,
of account.
it's
where you
not
can
illiquid.
take money out.
But I'm saying no, like, I mean, do you think he just woke up one day, I'm done?
No,
No,
Well,
he's
he
been
had to
thinking
left-
this for a while. I feel like if
He's
I was
pivoting.
owning Amazon for however long, I'd probably have this in mind that this is the way
The
I'm gonna
exit
go
plan?
out as well.
Yeah,
Exit plan?
eventually I step down, someone
Yeah.
else takes over, they get whatever salary's there. I still have my hand involved, but now I pivot to other things. I'm done. I'm bored. I'm bored.
I'm surprised someone like Warren Buffett hasn't stepped down yet.
But he's an old school mind kind of guy, though. Different though.
There it
Different
is. That's like Warren's not beat for that. He's done. Warren's
No.
like, I made my money. I'm fine. I have my
No,
investment.
but the thing is that what Warren does, like, if it doesn't work, he passes away.
Mm,
That's his mind. That's how it is. Because he's the type of guy who loves to work. That's his passion. You gotta see
Mhm.
that though.
Yeah, but that's a generational thing.
Yeah.
They don't know how not to work.
Yeah.
Right. So Warren Buffett doesn't want to do what Elon's doing. He doesn't want to do what Bezos is doing. He doesn't want to do what Zuckerberg's doing. But he's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
continue to do what works for him.
Yeah.
And diversify here. There's a couple of young people that he hires to
He
keep
actually
him.
he actually brought his team up a little bit more up where he delegated a lot of
Yeah,
responsibility.
he's delegated a lot out. So like,
Yeah.
he's not
but
the
he-
main.
But his focus is still on finding company that's worthwhile for investing. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but with that said in mind, okay, listen, I know we're taking too much of your time, Liz. All right. So before we end this
It's been
episode,
fun.
no, definitely been fun. I've definitely learned a lot from you, by the way.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, thanks.
let's stay in touch. Okay, first of all, don't be a stranger.
Call me anytime, you guys. On Saturday.
We're gonna call
After
you. Don't worry. After 3.
I'll be asleep. Don't do that.
Well, let me ask you this though. Do you have anything to vent out? For the week.
We have our free range ranting session, vent session every week.
Just to let it go, just to let it go.
Yeah.
Man, I already do that so much with my therapist about work. Anyway, like literally, she's very well compensated and well paid for the
Nice.
wells of corporate shenanigans. What's my rant for the week?
It could be personal, or it could be.
Man, you know what my
annoying.
rant is? I really fucking hate people who reply all the shit. Just my God.
Reply
the
all.
email.
Oh my god.
Stop replying all. Like
Replying all.
like it's like 2 to 3 hours of don't reply all, but you're replying.
I love that. It's like when I was working at Bank of America, that was my favorite thing that happened, right? Someone would send out a mass email and then someone would be like, you know what, let me reply all. Can you remove me from this list?
No,
And
just
then
reply directly.
hundreds of people send back, can you take me off this list as well? Or please don't respond to all.
It starts a chain. It starts a chain.
It's like, and I'm just sitting here like, did any of you not see the part where you weren't just reply to the person? Take me off the list. That's it.
That is
6
hilarious.
hours later, someone's responding. Please remove
It's
me.
so
from
funny. I love
that is
funny.
probably like my funniest rant for this week.
That is funny.
It did happen. And it was just like,
when I was at Merrill, we used to save all of those. Like, so I would have like a long email chain of all of these things. And so there was like, maybe I was there for 6 years, maybe 4 or 5 times this happened where like somebody in India would like email in the middle of the night, please like reply to all. And then from there, it just like went through the India time into New York time, into Pacific time, and it's like it would just last forever. It was just so funny to like watch.
Yeah, that's just cascade goes forward. That's just
that is my best friend. I probably have another rant in me, probably about like dating and COVID, but I'll save that for another time.
It's tough. It's tough though. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Robert, what's your rant?
My rant is what was I? Mike, you go first. I definitely have one. I don't remember. I going into this reply all got me off topic.
So my rant is that I've been looking at a lot of penny stocks and I've been taking out profit way too early before the moon. And I'm like, oh, I'm happy with 30% profit. Oh, I'm happy with 60% profit. And it moves to like 160, 200, 300%. I'm like, God damn it. I'm like, come on. I'm like,
you know what, Mike? You know what, Mike? I could go on a rant about how I'm upset that you keep complaining about this. Because every single stock you get out of, you're like, oh man, today it went up to like 100% up. And
you gotta be patient, Mike.
I'm like, Mike, if you're happy with 30%, be happy with 30%, right? Don't be.
I don't get greedy. I don't get greedy, Liz. Okay, I learned not to get greedy.
Except that he complains about his greed.
Listen, but you still gotta hold. You still, especially on penny stocks, because of the way that works. Like that's not my area of expertise, but you gotta okay, you just gotta give it a little time, just a little bit of time.
It's funny because he'll sell at 30%, right? He'll have
I'll sell some.
Say 100 shares, right? And he'll sell 50 at 30% up, and then it'll go up to like way more, and he'll be like, "Man, I can't believe I sold half of my stuff at this." I'm like, bro, you took what you wanted, like.
You still
be
made
happy
a profit
with your decision, and you're making money. Like, just stop complaining about.
I guess I hate regret sometimes.
Yeah, you are super. You're super FOMO, but you won't like go in on it. That's it. You're like super FOMO on like what you missed.
You gotta pull the trigger and walk away. You gotta pull the trigger and walk away.
My risk tolerance number has gone to 9 to 7 now.
That's it doesn't feel like that, Mike.
He's definitely living on the edge, and he's just like, so wait, how much did I lose?
Yeah,
listen, pull the trigger, walk away, Mike, invest in the next thing. Okay.
Right. I think you should just stop looking at it after you get out. And not and like have no regrets on what you moved out, because that was a strategic decision.
That's true.
You should like take it in as that.
No,
right?
that is my plan though. I don't get greedy. I learned that the hard way, right? You know what? I'll take some profit in the beginning to make, you just play with the house money in a sense. Whatever it is. Yeah. So I should, and I tried hard to stick by my plan.
And that's good. Like your plan is good.
Yeah.
I just don't want to hear you complaining about
he wants you to stop
because your plan is good. Like it's a good plan. You take out what you need. Don't say that you should have kept it in, because you would never have kept it in. Right? Like that's really what happened. So no regrets, man. Just as long as you make money.
Was that your rant? Robert, was that your rant?
No, my rant is that like I am. All right. Well, that was a good counter rant for me. But like, but my rant is that I am officially getting rid of all of the boxes that I am using to prop up this whole thing, right? So like what I've been doing is I get Amazon packages every day. So I get Amazon boxes and I put everything up and lift everything up based on boxes. So I have like $1,000 worth of technology on these paper boxes that could fall over any minute. So I'm like, I'm getting out of this whole thing, and it looks horrible.
Did you buy like a little desk thingy to raise it up?
Yeah, so I'm buying like laptop and like
razors and
like monitor razors and stuff, so that like everything's up, but it's not like it's not like Amazon boxes I'm using. I
It's
had
dirty.
It's
What do you
sturdy.
say?
Yeah, that's true.
Sturdy.
Sturdy.
Yeah, it's sturdy and it doesn't look bad. Right? I had my cleaner come and I was like, oh shoot, my whole setup is here, but it's all like these brown boxes that like that look horrible. And I'm like, I don't know, he's gonna judge me so much about like how I don't like want to buy
The cleaner.
She cleans your space. I sincerely doubt that that's
She
the
cares.
thing.
Seriously,
like,
right?
man, why is it she's like, I'm his cleaner, and yet why is he using these brown ugly boxes to lift all of his stuff?
You
Why
could
does
have
he
got
have
some
everything
crates.
on boxes?
You could have an old school Brooklyn, New York DJ set up with the crates here, Robert.
Right.
What's going on, man?
No, like if I had crates, I would like that better than these Amazon packages that I'm putting
Like,
stuff on.
come on. We all went to college. We all went to that one sketch frat party with the crates
Yeah.
and the DJ
Yeah,
thing.
it's true. Yeah.
What's going on?
No, I wish I had crates. That's what I wish I had crates.
All right. So Liz, before we part away, is there one advice you'd like to give to our listeners from your, mortgage side, real estate mindset, to folks who are planning to buy a home for first time? Just wondering.
Get organized and consult a housing counselor, no matter how much money you make. So if you make a lot of money, talk to a financial planner. If you don't make a whole lot of money, find a housing counselor. HUD.
So what is a housing counselor? A little bit more. Sorry, just for people.
Housing counselor, that's a person who will they will run through the educational process of getting ready, making a budget, saving, getting ready to buy a home. They will also tell you the type of grant programs that are available as a first-time home buyer in whatever state you live in. So you can go to HUD.gov and you can search housing counselors, HUD approved housing counselors. That's a wealth of knowledge. So you hear things more than once.
Okay, that's good to hear that. And now you like to pimp anything now?
Oh, they're like the pimp. Oh my God. You mean don't want to do sales?
Yeah, you want to.
Listen, you guys can find me on Instagram, Medicine2Mortgages.
It's gonna be up there above us. We're gonna
it's in there somewhere. My bad, you guys.
No worries.
This sweatshirt will be coming very soon. It actually is available, but I'm doing a rebranding right now. So that's about it. Email me, text me before 7 p.m. Monday through Friday if you have questions about the mortgage.
Called you up 7 a.m. Got it. Okay.
Yep,
got it.
7 a.m.
Okay. All right. I'm only talking to Jesus at that point, so you'll get a side note. But that's about it.
All right. Well, we want to thank everyone who's listening. I want everyone who's on YouTube to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and you can hear all of our podcasts. Anyone listening on Apple Music or any of the podcast apps, you can leave us a review, add comments, tell us your plan, like all of your financial plans and how you're building generational wealth. And then don't forget to check out our website, www.gfOThoughts.com, and you can hear all of our episodes there.
Well, Liz, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you everybody for listening. Until next time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Peace.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Gluten-Free Organic Thoughts podcast. As always, we appreciate you. If you are watching us on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this episode, and leave us a comment. If you are listening to us, please leave us your honest review on your preferred podcast listening platform. And as always, you can find us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GFOThoughts. Drop a comment and give us some feedback. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, see you then.